social call. Come right in, forget about him. We'll have ourselves a ball. Hey, dirty deeds, done dirty. cheap. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds and the done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds and the done dirt cheap. If you got a lady and you want her gone, but you ain't got the guts, she keeps nagging at you night and day, enough to drive you nuts. Pick up the phone, leave her alone. It's time you made a stand. For a fee, I'm happy to be your backdoor man. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds and the done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds and the done dirt cheap. Concrete shoes, cyanide, TNT, done dirt cheap. Neckties, contracts, high voltage, done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap.
System, the company store, the paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural, and this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murder scum. They're on giant death factories keeping babies alive. They're selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, "We love Satan, we wanna eat babies." I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy, weird, sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy, weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Literal vampire pot and the goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, "We love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet."
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this.
There, now I'm unmuted. Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another episode of Cryptic Corner. Good morning, you all. And as you can see, woke is dead, so this is how we dress now. Big boobas, in your face, blonde hair. I'm ready for it. We are doing woke is dead today. Yeah, actually, my camera cuts it off anyway. You can't see my cleavage. Not that I have a lot. Anyway, good morning. It is March 9th, and we are looking at 9:40 right now, so I got about 5 minutes of preamble. Did 2 songs on my intro this morning. I don't usually do that, but sometimes I just feel like grooving back here in my seat while I smoke a bowl before the show. Not gonna lie to you, that's what I'm doing. Oh my gosh. It wouldn't be you if we didn't start muted. Yeah, usually it's one of my later segments that I start muted. This opening segment, I'm pretty good at hitting all the buttons in order like I'm supposed to. I'm gonna write an angry letter to the Streamlabs people and say, hey, do you know how to put an on-air light on your programs? Because an on-air light would be great. Just little red lights at the end of each one of these that say, hey, this is hot. Please. Yeah, good morning, everybody. So, what we got going on this morning? Yeah, besides the woke is dead thing. I just thought that was hilarious. And no, this new look with the straight hair was nothing to do with that. I just wanted to do something different with my hair today, so I went with straightening it out. So let me know what you think. I think it looks pretty cute. Yeah, and we got a good show today. I'm starting this thing in March, so I'm gonna deal with different fairy lore and stuff like that. Today we'll do the first one, but I will be putting up a poll on what else we're gonna cover next towards the end of the Cryptic Corner. So look out for that. It's gonna be, because we're gonna do one for every Saturday. So we need to have enough fairies to fill the next 4 spots, right? So the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th. I could have started this last week. I probably should have, but I had just covered what was that I covered before that? Something little people adjacent that I had covered, so I didn't want to cover that same thing twice in a row and then start this whole series as well. So but we'll get into that in Cryptic Corner when we roll into it in just a few minutes. Because if you haven't noticed, my Cryptic Corner is now off cycle again. I usually like to keep it between 2 and 3 weeks behind, and it's still in January, so I will probably have to do some compilation episodes, something like that. There are a few episodes that I did decide to drop because the audio quality was so bad on them because I used the wrong mic, and of course audio issues, right? So you won't see, or at least not anytime soon, a re-release of the Miami Mall alien stream I did, because of I was using this camera's mic on that whole thing, and it sounded like hot garbage, especially compared to the smooth sound of the people I was covering. So yeah, you won't be seeing a new release or any release of that anytime soon. It'll still exist in the original January stream spot, but it won't be released as an individual episode of Cryptic Corner for quite a while. It'll be like maybe a lost episode that I re-edit sometime when I have more patience for it. Right now, it just makes me mad to listen to it. I like the curly better, but the straightener is a nice change. Yeah, just doing something different, day to day, or not day to day. I'd probably keep it like this for a week or so, before I change it up. But yeah, so there's gonna be things like that it gives me a chance to trim back when they're this far back. The problem is when I do themed episodes and holiday themed episodes and things like that, they come out when they release it. They release really weird, right? They're like, oh, here's the Halloween episode coming out on the 18th of November. It's kind of awkward. Or St. Patrick's Day episode coming out in May. So you got to kind of balance things out. And I'm thinking that I might take those episodes and schedule those for re-releases the weeks leading up to those actual holidays instead. And that will have stuff scheduled out way ahead. It will also give me a chance to narrow down what I have scheduled out in the weeks coming, so I don't get too far ahead. Because I don't like my full schedule to be too thick. So I don't like for a long time I was doing 1 to 2 live shows a week, and then had at least 3 premieres. and that was just way too much going on. I felt like I was oversaturated doing all that premiering. So now I'm trying to narrow it down to just this one show a week with, special shows popping up here and there in between, and then just doing the 2 premieres weekly, 2 to 3 premieres weekly instead. Probably 2 premieres weekly and 1 just release on Monday. And the release on Monday is going to be my eco news. It's going to be the strange science, the paleo peak, and then on Wednesday it'll either be Bree's bestiary or it'll be sci-files, and then on Friday it's going to be Cryptic Corner continuing. Now about the debate channel thing that I was doing, I did kind of I didn't drop the ball on it. I just there's a group of people that I'm working with now that I think that we could build something bigger and better than what I could do alone. So I'm seeing where that goes, and my show would be a show on that channel potentially Friday night sci-fi. It could still be a thing, and if Friday night sci-fi does become a thing in the coming year, that does not mean that I'm going to move Cryptic Corner from Friday nights. I'll probably just push it earlier into the day, like at 6 o'clock, because Friday night sci-fi is going to start no earlier than 8. But we'll see what happens with that. So I'll keep you guys posted. I don't want to say who's involved. There's people that you do know that are involved. Other content creators and stuff in this debatosphere. I'm looking more for a moderator spot than a debater spot, though. I'll probably be moderating conversations and not moderating debates and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm already a couple minutes into Cryptic Corner, but I just wanted to make sure I was keeping everybody updated on what was going on in the back room. All right. So, without further ado, let's get into Cryptic Corner. I'll see you guys over there. Good morning, my beauties and bees. Welcome to another episode of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee, and today we are going to start a fairy journey that's going to take over the next couple episodes. So I hope you're here for it. I have in the past covered plenty of fairy stuff, right? I've covered literal fairy videos where we looked at videos people have said that they captured fairies. Most of the time it's insects being captured at a different frame rate that's making them look bizarre in some way. We've covered gnomes recently. That was quite recently, actually. Gnomes are fun. We've what else have we covered? Let me see. I can type that right in here. So when it comes to fairies, Yeah, the Devil's Fairy Folk. That was on an episode of Creation Watch, so we hit that up. Yeah, fairies caught on camera, gnomes, goblins maybe. Nope. Yeah, the Hopkinsville goblins we covered. So we've covered a lot of little people and little folklore and stuff like that. And today's is no different. Uh, gnomes get bonus on death saving throws, right? Yeah, gnomes. The gnomes we covered drive like little cars. They were weird. It was a weird experience these people reported. Pomberos, yeah. We did cover Pomberos, didn't we? No, we covered what is it? Denim or whatever. The little people from South America with the red hats. Yeah, we've covered a lot of different stuff, and today we're digging into one that's especially special to me, and it's especially special to this idea of Native American little people, because we're going to be talking about something that first came to my attention in my childhood. This was on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and the creature, if you call it a creature, was called Pedro, or the San Pedro mummy. And the fun thing about that is that we had actually a physical mummy at one time. So you guys know I'm a sucker for someone in an Indiana Jones hat. It's like horse swoon. So we're gonna watch the guy with the Indiana Jones hat talk about it. Nameragar. That is our subject for today, by the way. The Nameragar and San Pedro Mountain Mummy. I do not tend to forget that it's winter when the sun goes down. It's just not something that happens to me. I bitch about how early the sun goes down all winter long, so you will not hear me forgetting about it. I will, if you ask me about the sunset in the winter, I will automatically start complaining to you. I know it's a cycle, but I can still complain about it. It's not really the sun's fault. It's the way we set up our clocks here on Earth that makes it annoying. If I didn't have to try to live my day by the new yeah, anyway. Oh, can you all not hear? Hold on. We're only 30 seconds in. I can cut that. Dang it. Why you gotta be like that? Here we go. He starts talking about the winter here.
Let's say you and your friends decide to go out into Yellowstone National Park for an afternoon hike, but you forgot it's winter. And the sun falls much faster than you and your friend had expected. You're making your way back to your car with nothing but the light from your phone to keep you on track. But then you hear a noise coming from just off the trail. At first, you write it off as a squirrel or some other little scampering thing, but then something odd seems to be happening. As you continue walking down the trail, the noises seem to be following you. For some reason, you think you're the main character of a story and decide to investigate what that noise is. And as you get closer, the noise goes quiet. There's no rustling, and you and your friend...
That's like a panic situation. Like, that's what they call that. It's named after Pan, like the god. It's supposed to be when he's playing his music that everything in the forest just goes silent. His music, humans can't hear it, but makes everything in the forest go completely quiet. And it's supposed to cause panic in the people who experience it, which is where the word panic comes from. Because you experience it in the wilderness, a sudden quiet disquiet, right? Yeah. Anyway, we'll continue.
Go silent as your hearing is heightened to its maximum ability. You begin to hear tiny little breaths, as though a toddler or an infant was breathing very heavily, and you turn to be greeted with a 2-foot-tall humanoid creature with jagged, pointy teeth, and is clearly looking for food. Do you A, give him some of your trail mix, B, make like a tree and leave, or C, trip your friend and get out of there as fast as you can, because the Namarigars are nothing like the Yunwi Junzi of Cherokee legend. The Namarigars are man-eaters and have targeted you and your buddy as their next feast for their tribe. You don't have to outrun the monster that's chasing you, just the slowest person in your group.
That's super cold, but probably true when you're dealing with man-eaters. They're 2 foot tall, though, and if there was only one of them and I had my friend with me, I think we would probably try to take it down. I don't think that we would run. I think that we would give it a go. That's like Chucky, right? I think I could take Chucky by myself. That's why Chucky, people talk about Chucky being a great slasher. He's got to sneak around and stuff because he gets wrecked if he doesn't. If he's not sneaky, he gets his ass kicked. The only time he's scariest when he has the person injured and then he's coming at him. So yeah, this story would have been much scarier if you like stepped in a bear trap or something first and you were wounded and then you saw that nasty little critter coming at you. But we'll see. Yeah, it's only 2 foot tall. You offered it the trail mix? Ah, but we were gonna split that. There's only no. That comes out of everybody's then. Okay, you didn't give him any of the raisins, did you? Because if you don't want your raisins, don't give them to the goblin. Because I want them. I know I'm weird. I like raisins. Sorry. All right.
I'm sorry.
Ah.
So what do the Namarigars
What a
have to do
jerk.
with this little thing here? Well, this little guy has been known as the San Pedro Mountain Mummy. And we're going to get into this.
I always knew it is Pedro, though. And it's a lot smaller than what they described in that story there. Pedro is only 14 inches tall, so it's a little over a foot tall. That's about like that. Pedro was the size of a small infant. And keep that in mind, because it's going to come back later. Oh, hey, Wild World. Good to see ya. Have a good one. Yeah, I plan to. Yeah, I'm not punting little dude. I'm giving him snacks and making friends. They survive when you all get eaten. They're gonna share some brie brisket with you, Tsumami. Give him the trail mix. Oh. Are you my mommy? Yo, mommy.
little thing's origin so that way you can understand why its existence alone should be a concern for anyone that goes out into the woods of Wyoming.
These guys looks like they look like they would enjoy shriveled grapes. I'm just saying, they really do. They look like they would enjoy some shriveled grapes. Of course, grapes aren't really native to the Rockies. There's stuff that they could have called grapes, though, that are similar. That's why the Vikings called... Well, that was more on the East Coast, because they called this Vinland, because the wineland, because they said there was grapevines everywhere. But there aren't really. Not here. Not naturally.
In the summer of 1943 in central Wyoming, two men were out looking for their share of wealth in the form of raw gold. They decided the best way to find their fortune is by blasting holes in the side of a mountain. So the
Ember, the woods of Wyoming. Don't you know you just start from one corner, you make a diagonal across to the other corner. I'm doing this on my screen too. And then you go straight across the top to this corner, back down to this corner, and then because Montana's just a big square, and then you start filling it in. Yep. It's like you'll figure it out. Woods of Montana can't be that big. It's in a box, right? Just everything inside that box. Just Montana. You know. It's no Alaska. It's no Texas. Raw gold, not the cooked variety. Exactly. Raw gold right off the vine.
Two men, Cecil Maine and Frank Carr, set a charge at the foot of the San Pedro Mountains. As they took cover and blasted a hole inside of the rocky terrain, it managed to reveal an underground cave, but it wasn't large like you would expect. It was rather small, but not too small that Cecil Maine couldn't crawl into it. So he makes his way into the tiny space until he found a rocky ledge that was about 2.5 feet off of the ground. And to their disappointment, there wasn't any gold in sight. However, he did see something else. It looked as though it were a small, very small, yet very intelligent man sitting on a ledge with his eyes closed. His arms were crossed and his feet.
Why does he look intelligent for? He doesn't look intelligent to me. He doesn't look dumb either. He just looks kind of, I don't know. Without being able to see its eyes, I don't know. I have a hard time gauging intelligence, especially if its eyes are closed. I'd call it an anthropoid at least.
Feet were tucked underneath him. This little man's skin was dried by the arid Wyoming weather, and his mouth looked almost as if he were scolding the man for disturbing his resting place. After further examination, Maine had realized that this little man wasn't alive, and that he was around 6.5 inches tall while sitting.
Now that's a different size than we'll hear later, and we'll see when we look into this a little bit deeper. Cavers are nuts. I used to love caving. I grew up in Missouri. So yeah, we put on our waterproof suits and get our ropes out and just descend down into pretty much any of the little caves around here that we could fit into all the way. One time we found a vulture nest way back in there. Didn't realize vultures nested so far back into the caves like that, but they really do. I guess it keeps their babies safe, but yeah, Mama was ready to defend it. She threw up at us. It was pretty epic.
The little guy weighed about a pound, and while they would have much preferred a pound of gold, there was no denying that they had managed to stumble upon a treasure. Throughout the next couple years, somehow it managed to end up in the ownership of Homer F. Sherrill, and was then owned by Floyd Jones. He owned a drugstore in Meeteetse, Wyoming. Jones was selling postcards of the man to bring in a little bit of extra cash, and it managed to work. It became a bit of a sideshow attraction.
Okay, so 6 inches in the sitting position is what he means. So not like standing up. Standing up, it would have been 14 inches tall is the 14-inch estimate. I was getting some clarification on that. Yeah.
Later on, the San Pedro mummy found its way to Ivan Goodman, who was a car dealer in Casper, Wyoming, which wasn't too far from where the little man was found. He showed off the little guy as it sat atop a wooden base. Now later on, this little guy was x-rayed, and the images proved that this wasn't made in arts and crafts. The San Pedro mummy was real.
Well, taxidermy is still an arts and crafts, sweetie, so if someone crafted it together like this, and I'm not saying that's what this is, I think that this is infant burial, or was an infant burial. Anencephaly. Well, I think when they say deformed, they're talking about the deformation on the skull, because its skull was crushed. So its skull was deformed, and I think, I'm being generous here, not that it was born, or if I said deformed, yeah. I'm not trying to offend, sorry. Is Brie a goblin? She likes caves and raisins. Yeah? I do like raisins. What's wrong with raisins? I like dried fruit, just in general. Look, I don't get a lot of options in my diet. I don't have a lot of variety for me since I don't eat most meat. So, yeah, I work with what I get.
It was real flesh and bone, and as far as they could tell, it was 100% authentic. But what exactly is it? Well, I'm getting to that. There's a scientific explanation as to why this person looks this way, but the story of its existence and disappearance isn't told yet. Ivan Goodman had featured the mummy in his car advertisements and even had a hype poster saying, "It's educational, it's scientific, it will amaze and thrill you. It's a pygmy preserved as it actually lived." The poster had the photos along with its x-rays.
Yeah, and pygmies are a very specific group of people. live in the Congo region, so in the Congo Basin. So it wouldn't be appropriate to call this a pygmy either. Only in the very, very loosest of terminology. A dwarf population might be better. Yeah, a dwarf population of people. Not really. Would it be insular dwarfism?
And had claimed that the little being was around 65 years old when it died. But the validity of this is going to come up later, and you're definitely going to want to know what the anthropology department of Harvard had to say about it. But one reason I've always loved this story of this little being is because we have pictures and x-rays, so we know this thing was real. We know that it existed at one point, and for some odd reason, the San Pedro mummy was misplaced. So one of two things is true. Either this little thing is a normal human with a rare disease, or this is a little person that we've heard of in Native American lore and legends. And if this was just a person, then
I just don't like the way its arms are distended. That it makes me uncomfortable. Is that weird? I know it's cross-armed and stuff, but like that's what gives it that adult look. Is that the forearms are so I don't know. Like the tendons and stuff are so stretched, like there's no baby fat on it, right? But when a human body starts to break down, especially in a dry climate like that, the saps the moisture out of it, and that's mostly what the fat is. As fat cells are just the way our body stores extra moisture for us, right? So when your body starts to sap the moisture out of you, and you get started to desiccate, the first thing that goes is fat. So it's going to lose that chubby baby like features on its arms and face very early on in the desiccation process.
then that would mean people have been displaying a sickly corpse, and now that corpse was just misplaced? How do you just lose a dead body, especially...
This reminds me of Alyoshanka. Remember when we covered Alyoshanka and I was like, so this lady finds this alien baby in the woods, right, and is taking care of it and stuff. And everybody's like, oh no, she's crazy. There's no baby. She's crazy. They call the cops to come get her, and the cops come and get her to lock her up in a mental ward. And there's the baby in the house. And they're like, oh no, we did not lock you up because there's no baby. Do you have somebody to take care of the baby while we lock you up? It was this really weird story. And then the baby disappeared. The baby died and then disappeared. So, and it's like, okay, that's Russian authorities just letting a baby just disappear. But wasn't much better in the U.S. when you could display a human corpse of an infant for years and years in your auto dealership.
Only one so unique as this. And if this is a creature of Shoshone legend, isn't it convenient that this little person has just disappeared? Either way, the San Pedro mummy's disappearance is incredibly suspicious. It vanished in 1950 and hasn't turned up since. There's rumors and pictures, but no guaranteed location. It's been 7 decades since it's been lost, and we still have no word of its reemergence. So what exactly could this be? Well, before we get into the folkloric possibility of what this could be, let's take a look at the assumption of what this is scientifically. Anencephaly is an extremely rare defect.
And I will see that. You will see that a lot with these sovereign citizen videos and stuff. They do, the cops do tend to try to arrest people for resisting arrest. And it's like, that's not a thing you can do, officer. You have to have a primary offense first. But here, they're going to get into this.
In the formation of a baby's neural tube during its development. If a baby is tragically born with this defect, it may be stillborn or survive from just a few hours to a few days. This is what many people believe the San Pedro mummy to be, an infant with a rare birth defect. And while that's definitely a viable explanation, if this was an infant with a genetic defect, how was it hidden so deep within a mountain that the only way that these two men could have actually made their way to it was to blast a hole in the side of a mountain? And then is it really likely that a Native
Brown people can't dig holes in the sides of mountains? It had to be fairies.
American man or woman would be willing to go through this difficult task of finding a small cave and then crawling through this with their deceased child, only to prop them up in a cross-legged, arm-folded position, only to then leave the body in the cave? Which, by the way, isn't too dissimilar to how the Shoshone bury their dead, but it leaves out a lot of what they actually do. The Shoshone custom is to wrap their dead in skins and then deposit them in caves or cliffs between rocks. They would also leave a generous amount of supplies and material for the journey into the unknown. However, since this is rumored to just have been a baby, and one with a defect at that, I'm not sure they would have done any of this at all. But the Shoshone wasn't the only people that once lived in Wyoming. The
You're not sure? Well, if Indiana Jones isn't sure about it, maybe it's real, right? If he thinks that because the people that lived here buried their dead in this exact same way, and people have been burying their dead in this way since the Clovis people, literally the oldest person in the U.S. ever discovered, is buried in this way in Montana and is a baby. And I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. Check this out. So, this is Anzac 1. Anzac 1 is a Paleo-Indian male infant whose remains were found in south central Montana, United States in 1968 and dates from 13,000 to 12,850 years BP. The child was found with more than 115 tools made of stone and antler and dusted with red ochre, which is a common burial practice for everybody, for all humans. Red ochre was the way to bury people for quite some time. Most of the most of the Holocene, and probably most of the yeah. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so suggested an honorary burial. Anzac 1 is the only human who has been discovered with the Clovis complex and is the first ancient Native American genome to be fully sequenced. Paleogenomics, let me start over. Paleogenomic analysis of the remains reveals Siberian ancestry and a close genetic relationship to modern Native Americans, including those of Central and South America. These findings support the hypothesis that modern Native Americans are descendant from Asian populations who crossed Beringia between 23,000 and 14,000 years ago. Anzac 1's discovery and subsequent analysis has been controversial. The remains were found on private land, so compliance with Native American Grave Protection and Reparation Act was not required in the study. However, some Native American tribal members in Montana felt they should have been consulted before the research undertook analysis of the infant's skeleton and genome. Montana state law does require consultation with Native Americans concerning deposition of ancient skeletal remains. After consultation, Anzac 1 was reburied on June 28th, 2014 in the Shield River Valley in an intertribal ceremony. The numerous Clovis artifacts associated with the first burial are curated at the Montana Historical Society in Helena, Montana. So yeah, there you go. Check that out. I slipped some freaking science in on you. Oh, didn't see that coming, did ya? Look at me teaching you all about early American paleontology when I tricked you into coming here to talk about little fairy gnomes.
Diane would place the body high above the ground because the belief was
Boom.
that it would accelerate the soul's passing into the afterlife. So the San Pedro Mountain mummy's location doesn't fit with their beliefs either. The Sioux who had also lived there practiced tree burials, much like many others. And the Crow people that lived in Wyoming had an entirely different ritual from their dead altogether. So even though it doesn't fit the Shoshone tradition hardly at all, it's the closest.
I've never thought about that too much before, how the Native Americans populations would have been varied in the way that they treated their dead. A lot of them put them in caves and stuff, which is really interesting. And there's burials, of course, but there's also things like this where they expose them to the elements and let nature basically break them down. So you got scavengers and exposure and sunlight and rain and wind and snow, just breaking the bodies down up there on that platform.
This thing we have to an explanation as to how it got there. But if it's something else, what do the legends of the Shoshone say about little people? The Shoshone people have legends about little people known as the Namerigar. And according to their stories, the Namerigar are very tiny people around 20 inches tall, or even as big as 3 feet tall. And also some of the natives called them little people eaters. And that isn't just for us either. It's said that if a member of Namerigar society was too sick to contribute, then they'd put an arrow in their head. And this is where things get weird. Before the internet, before the San Pedro mummy, before all of the things we talked about today, people suspected the existence of little people in North of America. And it wasn't in the 1900s or even 1800s, but all the way back into 1778 in the Centennial History of Coshocton County by William J. Balmer. There's some interesting things to be read about. We find that a missionary by the name of David Zeisberger believed that a certain burial ground contained the remains of a number of pygmies that were around 3 feet tall. And he goes further into detail as to what...
So this, we've seen this before too. Frontier Tales, newspaper Frontier Tales. Recently we did the stream about the man-eating plants from Madagascar. That was based on one of these tales. Obviously a lot of the young Earth creation stuff, like Matt Powell's famous Civil War pterodactyl, Frontier Tales. There's stories of course, living dinosaurs, stories that have later been molded into Sasquatch tales when they're about red-headed giants, lake monsters, cave monsters, all these things that are discovered, lost cities beneath the Grand Canyon, all are part of this Wild West fever dream that people had on the East Coast, and they were thirsty for the weird tales from beyond the Rocky Mountains, right? Or even from the Great Plains for a while, you know, or go back far enough from the Appalachians even. So yeah, always the weird West is what they were, what people were craving, and these writers were willing to give it to them.
Said the long rows of graves of the pygmy race at Coshocton were regularly arranged with their heads to the west, a circumstance that these people were sun worshippers, facing the daily approach of the sun god over the eastern hills. Acceptance of the sun worship surmise does not necessarily imply a deduction that this pygmy race may have descended from the river people of Hindostan or Egypt. Primeval man, wherever found, seems to have been a sun worshipper. And while we don't...
So that's like a Victorian era glamorization of what they would have considered archaeology back then, the same type of archaeology which took all the Egyptian artifacts and stowed them away to London, put them in displays in museums. Same kind of big brain thought goes into that, what that gentleman just read. I'm not saying that's the guy, our host's position here, just that to discover an infant graveyard or children's graveyard of native people, and just go to town with some folklore of your own about them, and them worshiping, being pygmies that worship the sun, and they're what do you say, primitive humans. It sounds very much like you found a children's graveyard.
Don't have the remains of the burial grounds. It does raise the question of their existence, because while many may call into question the scientific probability that we have never encountered or seen these little people, it gets harder to debate with information put forward by the American Museum of Natural History and one of the world's most renowned schools. The American Museum of Natural History takes up about 2.5 million square feet, and to this day has been around for 154 years. It was established in 1869 and is no stranger to the odd, unusual, and unique, which is why they wanted to run some thorough tests on the San Pedro mummy to see whether or not it was one big hoax. And when they did, they found that it was 100% real.
Why does it hurt so much?
Because it was real.
And if this isn't enough to convince you, the anthropology department at Harvard State University certified that the tests performed by the museum were legit. They were certified genuine and true. The department also stated that the body was estimated to be around 65 years old as well. They saw that there was damage to the spine, a broken collarbone, and its skull was smashed in, which exposed a portion of the brain tissue and some congealed blood. This all pointed to the possibility that this little man had a rather violent death. But it gets even...
Well, the baby born with the disorder, maybe they tried to put it out of its what they considered its unfortunately miserable prospects of existence, right? Maybe the parents made that hard decision on whether or not they could take care of this obviously disabled child that was going to struggle. Parents had to make decisions like that all the time. That's why that's where the leaving the baby on the fire step thing come from, because people used to just leave them in the woods to die of exposure. That way nobody killed the baby, nobody murdered the baby. The baby got left in the woods on accident, and the baby got carried off into the woods. You don't know what happened. And then that way, no harm, no foul. Now we got like all this forensic stuff. Of course, it's easier to try to pin down who the abandoning mother is if they find a dead newborn in the wild. Of course, I'm not condoning that practice. I'm just saying that, you know, through most of modern history, that was a decision people made in the months leading up to the birth, was whether or not they were gonna try to raise that baby or not when it came out.
Even creepier when they examined the teeth. They claimed that this corpse had a full set of canine-like teeth, all of which were overly pointed.
Who claimed that? I can't find anything to support that. Canine-like teeth. Yeah, this is just colonizer talk about the remains of this. And I don't know that he might even be native, but that's still called the story he's telling is a colonizer's tale about this infant.
And what is the Namaragar known to have? Pointed and sharp teeth. However, the University of Wyoming had also examined the body and at one point claimed that it was an anencephalic infant. And because of the cranial deformity, it only gave the appearance that it was an adult. And if it truly was a deformed baby, why wasn't it ever given a proper burial? Why is it that the San Pedro mummy is just missing? How do you miss?
Why wasn't that a proper burial? It was they had to blast a hole in a mountainside to find it. I think that's the most proper burial you can. Hell, if you wanted to preserve somebody, I can't think of a better way than to put them in a freaking deep cave in Montana. That seems like the hot and dry cycles of winter and summer, especially if you start in the winter, if you put them in there in the winter, so that they get freeze dried first. Look at the mummies of the Atacama Desert that just form naturally. The reason Egypt does mummies so good is because the hot dry cycle that they have. Yeah. No, I unblocked you, blessed be. I'll after every show, I usually try to pull those back. Sometimes I don't know what you get blocked for, but if something happens, I'll have my moderators report it back to me so I know. Maya's pronouns are Her Majesty.
Place something like that. It's as if you had an urn with your mother's ashes and then you just lost it in your move across town. You don't misplace these types of things, and honestly, what is this thing? Could this be proof of the little people that Native Americans have been telling stories of really being out there? Could they still be walking the woods and forest just out of reach of modern man? You tell me what you think down in the comments, and then check out...
No, they couldn't. No, they're not, and this mummy doesn't imply that either. But this is the channel, by the way, and there's his... I guess that's his signal, is his Indiana Jones hat. He does other videos about stuff like, El Chupacabra, Mothman, the Van Meter Visitor, Wine Cask Full of Gold, Lost Treasures. Oh, yeah. Beast of Bladenboro. That's one we haven't covered yet. more little people legends. So he does a lot of that. I guess he has to, in order to keep his channel up, maybe he has to give it this could still be real spin. I don't know. Yeah, and here we were. Yeah, this was the article on that. And there was part of this one I wanted to cover, not the whole thing, though. Where's the other one? Okay.
Its present location is unknown, and an offer of $10,000 by an unknown person wanting to prove evolution wrong was not enough to make Pedro resurface. In the 1990s, another mummy with similar characteristics and in crossed legs position was discovered. It was a female mummy kept by a Native American family in the attic for several generations. This one was nicknamed Chiquita, and after
Nothing weird about that. Just the, yeah, we keep dead babies in the attic. Sure, why not?
an examination by University of Wyoming anthropologist George Gill and DNA testing by the Denver Children's Hospital, it was determined to be another anencephalic infant that died in the 18th century. It was also determined that she was...
Sometimes I can't tell if the Y files, if he's putting on an act of incredulity, or if it's, or if he's actually, because he'll sometimes some of the stuff he ends with, I'm pretty sure that it's been solidly debunked, and he's like, I'm not sure, maybe it is real. I have to think about which one it was that I watched fairly recently. I think it was Polybius, his video on Polybius. I'm like, no, Polybius was not a real thing. Polybius was the FBI doing gambling raids on arcades in the Seattle region in the 80s, seen through the eyes of 8 to 12-year-olds.
Despite having blonde hair of Native American origin. What I normally do in the footage analysis videos is extrapolating directly observable features and draw a probabilistic conclusion based on elements that either support or detract from the footage plausibility. For obvious reasons, that can be done here, hence the word inference, which stands for making a logical judgment on the basis of circumstantial evidence rather than direct observation. On face value, the whole story seems to be just a big collective bias in wanting to consider the two tiny mummies, especially the first one, as proof of the existence of a mythical race of little people. Science proved that those mummies...
So, the second mummy definitely, in my opinion, looks anencephalic, like to a T. The Pedro, the way that they had him sitting, and some of the way that his skull was crushed, I may have been anencephalic or had some other similar condition, but the second one that they showed definitely looks more, let me go back to it real quick, looks more like it's got the anencephalic condition. Sorry if this is disturbing to anybody just looking at this little mummy, but yeah, I think it says a lot about...
that impedes the head's correct development. If we were to call our hypothesis existence of Nimerigar, the detracting elements would be the DNA results and the morphological exams conducted, in both cases, by a single institution, plus the fact that Pedro's estimated standing height, 14 inches, would be inconsistent with the 2 to 3 feet normally attributed to Nimerigar in Shoshone legends.
There you go.
But that could be explained with Pedro being a short individual, even among his kind. There are quite a few logical inconsistencies, though. In the 18th century, a religious figure trying to convert Native Americans, therefore having no interest whatsoever invalidating.
This is like when people talk about the Gospels and they make the argument for embarrassment. These kind of moral testaments that, like, you know, as a testament to the person's character that they wouldn't behave this way. I've never found that argument convincing in any situation, because, and call me a conspiracy theorist, but if people can, yeah, I do like the heckle fish though. It's kind of funny, but if people can collaborate to present a narrative together, then this all goes out the window about that. They're hinging, they're actually absolutely hinging you believing this on the credibility of their position and in this case, there'd be a conflict of interest. Yeah, Catholic missionaries like, yeah, we can make tons of tourist bucks off of this thing if we say it's a Native American fairy spirit thing or fairy creature, and they're like, yeah, having a Catholic priest say, yeah, it's real, would really help sell it. Can we work together and give you a cut? Heck yeah. I want to combine taxidermy and animatronics to really mess with people. Oh my gosh, that sounds horrifying. Do it. I do like taxidermy though. I mostly taxidermy bugs. I got taxidermied wasps. I got a whole bunch of other taxidermies in storage. I'm probably going to get out sometime soon.
Local folklore thought that the Nemerigar were real and knew of a great number of corpses with the exact physical features described in the Shoshone tales dug out in a specific location. In 1876, a newspaper with nationwide distribution and a scientific periodical announced the discovery of another similar cemetery, this time with thousands of corpses no taller than 3 feet each, and all buried in a crossed-leg position.
And then the cemetery disappeared, so it's anecdote. It's not a physical evidence. It doesn't add to plot. Anecdote does not add to... If these graveyards are not able to be examined now, then they don't matter. If you can't look at this stuff today and say, is this a inhuman? Are these really a race of tiny people? If the graveyards have disappeared, if the burial grounds are gone, then they don't count as evidence. Matter of fact, the fact that they disappeared should count as evidence on the implausibility side. That these studied burial grounds suddenly disappeared into the confines of history, or the mummies disappeared to the confines of history. These are things that should be in the implausibility side, in my opinion.
We could consider those 2 burial grounds just tall tales that even important publications could fall for. But how did they come up with that detail of crossed legs, given that 2 mummies with that specific body disposition were found only in the following century? It could.
But they aren't the only mummies and burials of Native Americans ever found up to this point. These aren't the first. These were not the first. These alleged 1876 burials were not the first Native American burials that were found. All the way into the Great Lakes, it was common to bury people in a cross-legged sitting position. If you buried the mound builders built the mounds around people sitting cross-legged. So that's the common standard for Native American burial, is for them to be sitting cross-legged with a mound of earth built around them. Right? That's the standard. Not something unique that you're going to say, hey, what about this?
It could be argued that yes, maybe those graveyards were discovered, but they contained anencephalic babies. But if we accept this explanation, then we must accept also the numbers that go with it, which would be tens or hundreds for the Ohio burial ground and thousands for the...
So not only did they unearth hundreds, but thousands of individuals that had this condition in this graveyard that then disappeared but they confirmed that they all had this same condition. They didn't just unearth a couple of maybe children's graves and say, hey, these ones are little. I bet they're all little. Is that the claim? And then the burial grounds again just disappeared into the confines of history, and we'll never know what happened to them.
Tennessee one, which begs the question, how could there be so many babies in the Native American tribes with that congenital anomaly? According to an open access paper on the website of the Reproductive Health Journal, anencephaly has a worldwide incidence of 8.3 per 10,000 births. It has been estimated that the entire native population of the North American continent between the 17th and 18th century was between 7 and 8 millions. Are we to think that such a small population could produce thousands of children with anencephaly? The other discrepancy, in my opinion, is that the Harvard certified tests established in no uncertain terms that Pedro was killed with a blow to the back of the head, hence the squeezed shape of the head, which is considered.
So we're going to be able to tell the difference between someone who's had a blow to the head and someone who has this anencephaly condition, right? And that's why I'm kind of on the fence about Pedro, because what I understand, the skull was shattered. But I just don't want to pin down a specific condition. But yes, that seems to be the most plausible one. That other one they showed looked a lot like anencephalic condition, though. But the head was in much better shape and much more. The features were much more recognizable. Now, anencephaly can be heritable. So if it's heritable in the Clovis gene line or the Clovis germ line, I mean, it's not. The research on anencephaly being heritable is flimsy. It's like kind of loose, but it is there. There are reports of it running in families. Hey Bree, recovering from sneezing, but also celebrating my 400th episode tonight. Woohoo! High five! Let us know who you got on. You could drop a link too. You got my permission, Van. Delia. Yeah, sadly, before modern medicine, many babies didn't make it, right? There'd be whole infant graveyards for a large community. Most of the graveyards would be infant graveyards, right? Imagine being the doorman at your own funeral. I bet I could make a fortune. You can have a flamethrower for a markup. Oh, are we planning our funerals? I want to be buried under one of those trees. Maybe one of those mushroom caskets. That'd be cool.
Consistent with oral legends that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Why would a tribe kill an infant with a blow to the head? Last.
To try to give it a quick death. A blow to the head is generally considered a merciful execution, all things considered. Like a good heavy blow to the head. It's like in the meat packing industry, in the butcher industry, in the factory farming industry. That's still depending on what kind of operation you're in. Like a small butcher shop, they'll still kill cattle with a sledge to the back of the head. You can kill pigs that way too. They do with pigs. They generally do like this bolt gun thing that's also supposed to be more humane, or they have the electric thing that they do now. So the sledge is out of practice, but it was considered humane throughout most of human history. A humane way to put someone down or put something down.
But not least, how could an infant possess pointy canines? Are we to think that it was customary in certain tribes to file and sharpen babies' teeth? To what end?
That's true too, Ember. Texas Chainsaw Massacre does tell you how to do it. And I worked at a butcher shop when I was in high school, only for like 1 week. I worked there through all the meat packing days from Monday through Thursday. Then Friday they called it Slaughter Day. And I won't give away what they did on that day, but I couldn't come back after that. And that wasn't for me. Obviously, being working at a butcher shop, not a brie kind of thing at all.
The DNA test was performed only on Chiquita, not on Pedro, because DNA testing was introduced only in the 1980s. Is it possible that if little people exist, they are a relatively recent genetic divergence from the
I think
native...
it's kind of funny that you got pointy canines on here, because I got pointy canines. Most humans have a little bit of point to their canines. We are primates. We have pointy canines.
American population, thus increasing the odds of errors by a relatively new technology? As usual, I should remind you that the most glaring difference between academic science and cryptozoology is that the latter accepts eyewitness testimony as enough reason for further investigation, with a foot firmly planted in the idea that we can't simply dismiss every account as lies and every witness as a...
Right, we can't dismiss it, but we can dissect it one piece of evidence at a time, and I think that's what I'd like to do. So, let's go through your list again one more time, Chad. Catholic missionaries with conflict of interest thought they were real. So this is, again, because someone in a position of authority believed it, you think that that's carries more weight than just anybody else, than the natives seeing it. Or if someone's from, I don't know, colonizer background, they're more believable than the actual natives. 'Cause I bet if you talk to the natives, they're going to tell you a whole different thing about the Nimerigar. They're going to tell you that they're, maybe more spirit-like entities, I bet. Let's see. 2 and 3 are the same one, right? They're the same answer. Graveyards with remains of tens or hundreds. In 1876, New York Times in the Journal of Anthropology covered burial sites with thousands. So this is mysterious burial grounds that then disappeared from history. So there's no evidence for these things actually existing other than frontier tales that were maybe believed by people writing in the Journal of Anthropology, but no actual evidence of their existence has been confirmed. Cross-legged is a normal way for Native Americans to bury their dead. That's a common way for the mounds to be built. The person sat cross-legged and the mound is built up around them. Anencephaly is low incident, right? And there's only two representatives that we can see that have anencephaly, which is, considering the number of Native Americans over the last 13,000 years. I'm being conservative there and giving you a even smaller amount of time. You can go back 23,000 years though, right? There's been, having 2 infants with this condition is not unheard of. A blow to the head. If Pedro was born with this condition, it's very possible that it would be an execution that would be considered the most humane way to put a baby down. All right, pointed canines. We're primates. We all have pointed canines. No DNA test on Pedro because Pedro disappeared. So there's not much to be said about that early DNA technology. Well, we can always test it again, the one that we do have. Okay, so.
Crazy redneck. I must point out that there are many reports about little people out there. I don't have a piece of footage or audio or photos to support this idea, but the combination of logical fallacies illustrated earlier, the extensive folklore, and the significant number of sound-minded individuals reporting encounters with tiny humanoid beings, I consider the existence of a species of proto-pygmies in the North American continent a concrete possibility. Do you agree with this analysis? Is there any specific legend or mystery that you would like me to analyze?
So, essentially, he's given us the composition argument, though. I think that my breakdown there of all his point by points was pretty spot on. I think that we can all agree that that's how we should look at this moving forward. Don't vote for Pedro, but he's making a composition argument, which is I'm used to seeing it in apologetics. That's why it's so easy to recognize from here. But it's just taking a whole bunch of little pieces. Oh, there's folklore and this and the sharp teeth, and it had a funny shaped head, and it was sitting cross-legged, and all these things, and trying to compile them all together into being one weird thing, instead of saying, hey, this is a unique individual that was that we should look at their burial in a unique way. And if they had this condition, that's understandable. We've had the experts look at it, and they agreed that yeah, it seems to be a human fetus with this condition. So who are we to dispute that based on folklore alone? I don't think so. But you tell me, do you believe in the Pedro mummy? Do you believe in the little people in Montana? Leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think. I was supposed to run a poll. I'm going to run a poll while I do the intermission, though, okay, for next week. So give me just a second here to put it together. All right, so I guess actually, let me close out the show, and then we'll close out Cryptic Corner, and then I'll do the poll. All right, so yeah, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think, and don't forget, if you want to join us live here every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, you can join these fine people over here who are always keeping my my chat lively. Beautiful, beautiful Hive, and you can make your commentary, and I'll read your jokes and stuff while I go through the show, so that's always going to be fun. Yeah. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time. All right. So the next... There's a few that I've been wanting to do. And I think y'all will like them. And shoot, I can't remember the names. So there's one in specific that I'm looking for. I can't remember how to spell the name. There we go. All right. It has a little fancy little symbol in it, so we're going to have that. And where is it? What, did I even have this one on the list? Oh well, we're gonna put it on our list anyway. So, thank you for sticking with me, by the way. There's more show to come, though, so don't go anywhere. More show to come. All right, so I will be back in just a minute. I'm going to do this intermission while this poll runs, and then we'll see how things go. I'll see you guys over in Sci-Fails.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Joint Forces, I am here today to inform you that a number of unidentified flying objects have appeared over many parts of our country. Though their exact origin remains to be fully determined, the FBI has informed me that it is very likely that these are visitors of extraterrestrial nature. I advise the American people to remain calm, not fall into panic, and wait for further announcements. we shall overcome this threat with confidence and vigilance. May God protect our souls.
Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another episode of Sci Fails, where we visit some science that, well, in this case, science has failed us long and hard. Today, I'm actually not looking at anything modern, no. Science, failures in science aren't a new phenomena, right? That's not something where bad things are pushed on the masses. Only to later find out they're detrimental. And there's a lot of conspiracies about things that aren't detrimental that they say they are too. But you know, when there's physical evidence, like lead poisoning, right? Like lead paint, right? We had lead paint everywhere, all over everything for decades before they found out, hey, you know, this is bad for our health, and they stopped doing it. Right? There's still old buildings now today that have lead in them, under layers of painted over, like, you know, poor people didn't have the ability to just have their homes stripped. They just had to deal with trying to cover it up as best they could. Lead pipes are still a thing in some far reaches. I'm going with the puppers, by the way, for the next episode. We'll get to there's two puppers on here. We'll do the Will-o'-the-Wisp in the middle of them, though. So we'll do Q-Sith, Will-o'-the-Wisp, and then Kitsune to wrap up the month. That sound cool with everybody? Because Q-Sith, I got a lot of fun stuff to talk about with that one. I was hoping that one would win, actually. Asbestos is another one. The glowing clock faces they used to use. What was it? Was it radon or radium? One of the radioactive materials to make clock faces glow or make clock hands glow. So that's one. They used to polish their hats with mercury. The Mad Hatter gets their essence from that. Now, in the 1950s, the Department of Agriculture was founded in I want to say it was 1952. Let me see. I got a timeline here. Yeah, 52, and then by 59, they had established the Agricultural Research Service. When was that established? Agricultural Research, 1953. Okay, so in 1953, the Agricultural Research Service was founded. And that sounds all good and fine. You know, agriculture, we need it to survive. Yeah, it was radium. I knew it was either radium or radon. One of the, one of those things that yeah, that would wipe you out over decades. So in the 1950s, the USDA's Agricultural Research Service started putting out sort of films about their new special product, right? Their new special product. Let's check it out.
Explains buildings treated with DDT.
This is.
The medical officer explains that buildings treated with DDT remain effective against mosquitoes for about 3 months. The Africans at first are not very impressed. Some are afraid that the DDT will poison them, while others suspect some sort of witchcraft. The entomologist calls for a bowl of porridge.
Watch what homie does here.
This is sprayed with the solution in full view of the audience.
Homie's gonna eat it. He's gonna eat some DDT.
He now eats several spoonfuls of the mixture to show that the contaminated food is harmless.
Oh, stop it!
This fails to convince the audience.
I wouldn't be convinced either. See, that's a crazy. I'd be like that chief just said, and the translator's gonna be much nicer than I am. That chief just the real translator. That chief just said this white man's crazy. He's eating bug poison right in front of us, and he wants to put that in my house. Keep walking, pal. That's what the chief just said, and then the translator's gonna come in and make it nicer.
Arab Kipkoy is the chief's spokesman and states his objections with eloquence. He says that the new medicine is a bad poison that may exterminate the whole tribe.
The new medicine is a bad poison that may exterminate the whole tribe. Let's hear that again.
Is the chief spokesman and states his objections with eloquence. He says that the new medicine is a bad poison that may exterminate the whole tribe.
Fucking right. We're not done though. This was a whole campaign. It wasn't like you talk about pushing bad medicine, right? About pushing untested. People would make these ideas about like vaccines and stuff, but they'll be perfectly fine with this, with something like this. You know, they want to bring DDT back. The same people that want to keep your vaccine, keep that vaccine away from you. Like, all this, don't be such a libcock in about the DDT.
Pools of stagnant water.
We're gonna
Ends with the war.
Here we go.
It begins with the war-born development of DDT. This diabolical weapon of modern science saved millions of humans, but killed billions of insects. Man, with this newly discovered force...
Not just insects. No, DDT didn't just kill insects.
...has at long last gained the upper hand in our age-old struggle. The really heavy blow fell only a few months ago. It came from laboratories where top scientists from famous universities and from industrial and government organizations...
That's like just scientist stock footage. He's just mixing chemicals for color change and stuff.
...collaborated to develop something new and different. They succeeded. They perfected Pestroy, the most effective weapon man has ever wielded against insects. In both its forms, powder and liquid, Pestroy means doomsday to us insects. For this new insect destroyer contains a lot of DDT, not just a little. Its DDT content is even higher than government specifications. But the really sure kill feature of this insect killer isn't simply that it contains DDT, it's the way that it makes sure that bugs get the DDT that's in it. For example, take this liquid form, Pestroid DDT synthetic resin coating, ideal for vertical surfaces. It's brushed up.
They want you to take a paintbrush and just coat your house with DDT. That's the idea. We're gonna spend the next few minutes watching people paint their houses with DDT. Why this guy talks about how awesome it is. I'm gonna speed it up, but just
Done easily and quickly and dries in half an hour. It forms a clear, long-lasting protective coating, scarcely noticeable on most surfaces. Other preparations.
Have you ever seen such venomous propaganda for poison?
Sprays, for instance, not only irritate the nasal passages and fog up the atmosphere, but quickly lose their effectiveness as the fog is dissipated. As a result, spraying must be repeated time after time. But not so with this. Pestroid goes right where it should go to kill insects. And once applied, it keeps right on killing them, week after week, month after month. Here's why. It's compounded with a new type of synthetic resin which binds DDT to any surface.
Pay attention right here because DDT sticks around.
It cling, keeps it from brushing off or blowing away. After application, DDT particles form at the surface of the coating, right where the insects walk, creating a long-lasting booby trap for insects.
Long-lasting is the key. You might have surfaces on your property right now that still have DDT on them from the 60s, from the 50s and 60s. If they're on a surface that doesn't get touched or handled much.
These crystals stay put. They are densely matted, not spindly and loosely knit, not easily shaken off or blown away. Pestroid liquid coating can be applied wherever insects are found, around doorways, for instance. On screens, where it not only kills insects, but also tends to keep the screen wire from rusting. In lockers, where bugs always go in search of food or clothing.
Homie, if you got bugs in your locker, you need to stop putting whatever you're putting in your locker in there. Because I've never had a single bug in my locker. Yeah, so remember to have your pregnant wife, while smoking, spray the DDT around. Exactly.
On fruit and vegetable stands.
Yeah, right next to your food. That's where you want it.
The happy hunting grounds for all types of insects. On tables and benches at picnic grounds. In and around basement drains.
Yeah, put that poison around your drain. That way it flows into the wastewater system. Put that poison right back into the system. What a brilliant idea.
Garbage and refuse receptacles of all kinds. Cabins and galleys of boats. Anywhere and everywhere bugs like to go.
Yeah, make sure it gets into the ocean. It's important to make sure you get plenty of DDT into the ocean. Let's let the fish soak it up. It's good for them.
The same deadly effectiveness of the liquid form is found in the Pestroid powder.
Oh, deadly effectiveness. So let's dump that right into the sea. Yeah. You put it in your, spray it around your trash can so it gets into the gutters and gets into the storm drains, into the water system. Because that flows out into the rivers. So yeah, this is fucking... This is wonderful.
Another constant threat to insect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This particular preparation is recommended for horizontal surfaces. It is so easy to apply because of a new efficient dispenser package. All people have to do is to press the patented top like this. It's a handful of concentrated death.
Concentrated death right into your piano, apparently. Do you get bugs in your piano a lot? That you need to fill your piano with poison?
This powder is truly activated. It contains stabilized pyrethrum, an ingredient which literally stampedes insects from their hiding places to bring them into contact with DDT, indoors or outdoors. Stirs them up, drives them out of cracks and crevices, places that hitherto have been home sweet home for insects. Yes, it gets...
You're gonna do that to insects if you spray or sprinkle anything over their home, though, over their hive. They're gonna react negatively. They don't want you pouring anything on them at all. The fact that it's poison is, yeah, but...
Gets in where DDT can really do a thorough job. and it's perfect for ridding Fido of those unwelcome house guests.
Well, see, back then there were bugs, D. Now we've killed them all. We only got about 20-ish% of the insects we had back then because they killed them all like this. Scientists try to figure out the mystery of the great insect decline over the last 40 years. What could have caused it? Because we stopped using DDT after we already covered everything under the earth, under the sun with it?
This new activated DDT powder also comes in a large pump back dispenser that's sure death for insects over large areas outdoors. It's made to order for around wood piles, barbecues, patios, house foundations, and so forth. Anywhere and everywhere, people want to make outdoor life around home more comfortable. It's also good for use on swamps and pools of stagnant water.
Yeah, just spray it into the water. Spray it into the waterways directly. Poof, poof, poof. Have some poison little micro ecosystems. Have some poison dragonfly larvae. Have some poison frog tadpoles. Have some poison stoneflies.
Campsites and wherever else bugs like to breed and gather.
All right, now so far, I've shown you propaganda for domestic use, right? But we are working our way up to the release of sulfur springs. So, I don't know why this says 1950. I think it was 1959. Yeah. So in 1959, well, first let me introduce a character before we move too far into things here. So I'm going to tell you about an author, Rachel Carson, right? Okay, in the mid 1940s, Rachel was working with studying synthetic pesticides, mostly post World War II stuff. You know, all the chemical warfare that sprung up during that. Really work. I mean, they went quick with it. Now that the war was over, we had time to actually do long-term studies on these things that they had created. And one of those things was DDT, right? DDT is a World War II creation. So, let's see, the United States, I'm reading this verbatim, okay, well, from the wiki, but, the United States Department of Agriculture in 1957 fire ant eradication program, which involved aerial spraying of DDT and other pesticides mixed with, fuel oil, and included the spraying of private land, prompted Carson to devote her research and her next book to the pesticides in the environment, poison. Landowners in Long Island filed a lawsuit to have the spraying stopped, and many in the affected regions followed the case closely because songbirds were falling dead. That was the first thing. We had birds just dropping dead, right? But the USDA, which are obviously, they're going to be the heroes of the story, right? No, unfortunately not. They came back with this after this research was done. Right after the research was started, they came back with this. We're not going to watch this whole thing. It's like half an hour long, but this is the agricultural propaganda version of what we just saw, the home version of. This was literally shown at like farmers events and things like that, and like the farmer council meeting and the agricultural council meetings and things like that, the town hall. And there's no sound yet, but we'll get there. 50s were weird.
In the long and fascinating history of life on Earth, human beings have lived with and have battled insects for many centuries. Now the war is between man and the imported fire ant. Since the fire ant is on trial, please listen to his defense.
Okay, so I want to start with the kind of cartoonish and infantilizing the local people that are dealing with this, because this was a prominent, the imported fire ant issue was a problem in the American South at this time, like really big. Now it's just they're naturalized at this point, right? There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. There's no nuking the invasive fire ants without nuking everything else in the area as well. So they're here to stay, right? They're not going anywhere and they're spreading. So that problem has not been solved by this, and this solution was not a solution.
2,000 years ago, the Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote that in India there were giant ants the color of cats and as large as Egyptian wolves that mined gold. As an ant, I can tell you that this is nonsense. We never grew that big. We didn't have to. Instead, we grew to be many. And we've always found man's valuable crops far more appetizing than his gold.
So, yeah, what would cat color? What do they think they mean by cat color? Like tawny, maybe? If I had to say there was a specific cat color, the only color that I could think of would be tawny, or maybe a gray. If we're talking about domestic cats, like a tabby gray. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But only recently has man bothered with my particular species. We are known as imported fire ants, so called to distinguish us from fire ants native to this country. A few years ago, scientists looked us over, gave us a Latin name I can't even pronounce, and declared that we were a serious pest. In a few laboratories, like this one in Gulfport, Mississippi, my relatives are captured for study. Maybe we are serious pests. I don't know. Being an ant, I'm prejudiced. But before you people join in the fight against fire ants, I'd like you to have the facts. This film will help you to know us better, help you to take a close look at the problem, to see what human communities are doing and how full-grown men are trying to control us tiny creatures.
As an entomologist, an insect scientist, I'm one of those men the ant was talking about.
I'm speeding this up.
Now that you've heard the insect point of view, you must hear the personal accounts of all of us, the farmers, housewives, sportsmen, and scientists like myself. We're all deeply concerned with the imported fire ant problem. First, let me introduce you to the three major adult forms. Meet a worker ant. Colored red to blackish red, he's a sporty fellow with an orange band on his abdomen. Now meet a winged male. It's his job to mate with a queen. And finally, a winged female or queen.
Look at that. Look at that big old oomph. She got a badonkadonk. Yeah, I eat ants are yummy. I'll eat ants. There's edible ants. Yeah, I eat bugs. Yeah, you'll find that here we are pro bug eating. Yeah, an ant that size would not be able to stand Hoosier. That's absolutely true. It would collapse under its own weight because chitin's not that sturdy at that size.
Like all ants, they live in colonies which begin when a queen digs an underground chamber and starts laying her eggs. Smooth, shiny, and white. To human eyes, the egg clusters resemble finely ground.
Well, actually, if the chitin got really, if it was tensile, like the chitin on a rhino's horn, then it wouldn't really be the same animal anymore, though, because the chitin cells are completely different. It's the same material, different structure.
Meal. Each queen looks after her hundreds of eggs all the time, even carries them in her cell wherever she goes. In less than 2 weeks, the eggs hatch into larvae. As dirty white grubs, they can hardly move.
Why are they dirty?
The first brood depends on the queen for food. In 6 to...
They look delicious, actually.
12 days, the larvae transform to pupae, and now resemble adult ants in shape. As soon as the workers emerge, they take over the feeding duties. For the first and second years, until the colony becomes established, only workers are produced. As the ant colony increases, the workers enlarge.
And invasive fire ants build huge colonies, like just massive. I think that they're the biggest underground colonies of any ant that I can think of. Not to say that they're the most numerous, but just the size of them. I don't know if you ever watched any of the pours that people do, where they pour like melted aluminum down into the ant colony, but they're like it was like a tree's roots upside, just whoosh everywhere.
The mound to accommodate the new broods.
Oh yeah, what I say?
Of a typical
Keratin, not chitin. Rhino horns. That's why I was saying if it could be if they could restructure the chitin like the keratin, then you could probably have an ant stand. I can't think of anything with chitin that gets much bigger than nothing terrestrial, like a coconut crab maybe is the biggest thing with chitin that I can think of that's on land. But yeah, because the chitin and keratin both grow from cuticles. So I don't know how easy it would be to, I'm sitting here trying to think of how to scientifically make giant ants by messing with their genes, you guys.
Mound, in the honeycombed, sponge-like framework, there may be 25,000 to 100,000 busy ants. Some colonies go as far as 5 feet down into the ground and rise a foot or more above ground and are about 2 to 4 feet across. The ever-growing tenement seething with life is one of the most complex insect habitations in the world.
That's the way you make them mad right there.
Because of disturbances or overpopulation, old colonies may abandon one.
Go ahead and whack an anthill like that with a shovel. That's the fuck around part, and then I think it's quickly followed by the find out.
One mound and move to a new spot. These are connected by tunnels through which ants move their food supplies, eggs, and babies. Great engineering feats considering their size. The tunnels they dig may be 25 to 80 feet long. In heavily infested areas, ants may build more than 100 mounds to the acre. Ants really aren't too particular, but they prefer a mild climate such as found in the southern half of the United States. Some colonies exist on sandy soils, others near the shoreline on the Gulf of Mexico, and still others in marshy lands or rich river valley soils. But wherever they build mounds near civilization, there's a problem.
Yeah. So their mounds will get up underneath in the farmers' fields, and they hit them with their equipment. It's a real issue. It's still a real issue to this day.
Man bothers the ant, and the ant bothers man.
That's right. Sometimes if mounds get in the way of our machine, they can cause a lot of damage and lost time. Ants make it hard and almost impossible for man to work. Every year, ant mounds damage more and more equipment. You can bet one thing, when bales of hay are left in the fields overnight, farm ants get in the bales for the next day. Once the ants move in, farm ants can't handle the hay, and often the hay is lost. I've seen damage done to other crops, too, like potatoes, corn, clover, small grains, beans.
They're just really trying to sell us on how horrible fire ants are.
I can tell you from experience.
Here we're living in a world 70 years later where we've adjusted to fire ants. So these arguments are kind of like I don't want to say they're falling on deaf ears, but we're like to the point where it's like, they're naturalized here, so not much to be done about it. But they're going to tell us we have to wipe them out.
When they're disturbed. To fight anything, anybody. What's more, most cases, little beggars win. In heavily infested areas, they make it hard for farmers like me to hire field hands. In addition to people, the ants attack animals. Newborn lambs, pigs, or calves are victims of the fire ants' terrible appetite.
I don't think the pest just limits itself to wildlife and agriculture. Construction gangs and utility crews have tried various ways to avoid them. Trouble is, fire ants can't read.
Now, don't get the idea that our homes are safe from attack by the fire ants. Betty! I'll tell you something else. Cemeteries are favorite places for these pesky things. I know people who've suffered painful stings while attending burial services where there were fire ant mounds.
Attending burial services. What's the world coming to where you're trying to bury someone and the ants interrupt it?
My husband is always ranting about how fire ants cause a lot of trouble on the golf course. An unnatural hazard, they call it.
Well, it's more natural than the golf course. Fuck your golf course. I'm serious. Fuck your golf course. I'm sorry. Especially Florida. Florida, fuck your golf courses. I hate this beautiful landscape. That's the only kind we have in the United States with this tropical climate. And we've just bulldozed it all to put in these stupid, ugly golf courses. And then we complain when wildlife gets on them. Fuck your golf courses.
They're very common and really a nuisance in open areas like lawns, parks, and schoolyards.
And
when their homes are stepped on, of course they fight. If that child's allergic to fire ants.
They do bite. The bite's not what you got to worry about, though. It's the sting. The bite's just to get a hold of you so they can drive that stinger deeper. I don't use any pest chemicals on my farm because we have gray fox here and the poison goes all the way up the food chain. Exactly, Reverb. Reverb gets it. Why don't you get it, 1950s housewife? Ugh. Dang, dude sounds straight out of To Kill a Mockingbird, yeah. It really irritates humans when the bugs are smarter than them. In June, I will be 29 years vegetarian. That's cool, Reverb. I'm working my way up to. I just gotta. I'm going pescatarian right now, but I still have a weakness for poultry. I need to try to shake. Antifungal work food for fire ant control. Barefoot with a real mower and more concern about the ants, right? That was one of the things my parents always taught us, is you never run a lawnmower barefoot or in flip-flops. You don't want your top of your feet exposed. The shoe is a minimal protection, right? The golf course is killing our manatees. Fucking right. Oh my gosh, yes. Got a fuck golf courses kind of team here. Golf course and parking lots and yeah. And of all the sports, all the sports things that people take up area for, golf is the worst. Obviously, frisbee golf, but frisbee golf usually takes place in what's already a park setting, like a city park. So it's not like a dedicated specifically to old men hitting little white balls around. That's why the sawgrass has died off from the stupid runoff and stupid golf courses. Las Vegas is having golf courses in the desert. Kills me, right? And then they complain about the water being used by reservoirs and things like that. The people in what was it, the javelina that they were complaining about, these the Native American, or not Native American, well, they are native to America. Suids. They're not pigs. They're distant cousins that are native to the New World. But javelina live in Arizona and Nevada and California and New Mexico. I think maybe Utah too, a little bit. Anyway, like the Four Corners area and then over into California. But they were rooting up their golf courses and these people were complaining about it and tweeting about it. And it's like, fuck your golf courses. Let them javelina eat. You're taking all the water and running it straight into your little golf course from the whole area, desert around you, and you complain when the animals that are thirsty show up, the animals that are thirsty and hungry show up to eat and drink. Shut the fuck up. Fuck your golf courses. No, I didn't even realize this was going to turn into a fuck your golf courses stream, but of course it did. I hate golf courses and cemeteries. Waste of land, yeah. They could really change the way they do cemeteries to make them not just a good source of land, but a nice balanced ecology, or good use of land, but a nice balanced ecology, right? Sumami, it's bad that boating is still claiming more than even red for the manatees. Yeah, manatees make me sad. John, I rarely do anything. I don't want to disrupt my normal chemical balance too much because dreams are badass. Oh, okay, you're talking about something else. I have a disc golf course here. The goats are the maintenance crew, and I'm a senior grandmaster pro. Pros have played here. That's cool. Hopefully the land usage is reasonable, and it's just avenues instead of full expanses. I think that's probably something golf could benefit from, is being just avenues. But golf, the people that play golf suck at it so bad they couldn't stay on avenues. They always go off this way or that way, so they need a whole football field for every hole, because they can't just have a straight avenue to the hole and try to figure that out. I think the game would be more interesting if there was just narrow avenues and they just had to try to stay on it, and when they go off of it, they go off of it and they're out of bounds. That'd be fucking awesome. Play that game instead. It'd take up a lot less space. I love it when Austin has water restrictions and the rich people still use millions of gallons on landscaping. Just a matter of time. Yeah, eat the rich. Absolutely. Our local disc golf course is on a river. Hole 2 and 12 are unforgiving. You can play golf anywhere, technically. Yeah, I mean, if you can hit a ball with a club, you can play golf anywhere. Yeah, Florida is as bad as Texas. They have water restrictions, but let Hershey's, etc., take millions of gallons of week to bottle for pennies a month. All right, I better get back to the video.
They might kill him. It has happened. Listen to what my doctor told me. Fire ant stings are painful.
Just, it has happened. It has happened. Fire ants have killed people. That's all she says about it.
When humans and pets are stung, they will remember the sting a long time.
Doesn't that sound scary, though? Fire ants can kill people. It has happened. That's terrifying. People in the 1950s just now learning to deal with this newly invasive species.
First, the ant sinks its jaws into the flesh, giving the victim a stabbing pain. Then the insect brings up the stinger and drives it into the skin. As soon as it injects poison, the victim feels a bite that itches and burns. While hanging on with its jaws, the ant may sting a half dozen times before letting go. Afterwards, there develops a wheal, then a pustule, a pimple-like sore that can leave a scar, depending on a person's allergic reaction.
Now, I've been bitten by fire ants before. Not fun. Not the worst, though. I think the problem with fire ants is the sheer volume of bites, as opposed to the power of one bite, right?
The effect of the imported fire ant sting is much the same thing as the sting of bees, wasps, and hornets. Those who are unusually sensitive to fire ant venom may suffer nausea, chest pains, and even lapse into coma. A person with a high degree of allergy, subjected to relatively few bites, may die.
And that's going to come to any stinging hymenopteron for you. So if you have this allergy to one, you probably have the allergy to all of them. So keep that in mind, too. If you're highly allergic to bees, you're probably highly allergic to fire ants.
We have a case record of a boy who died after receiving only 3 fire ant stings. Tulane University scientists report that on an average summer day in a city like New Orleans, 1,000 persons can expect to be stung by fire ants.
As an insect scientist, I can tell you that the ant has been a relentless rival of man for a long time.
Now, I tried to find out as much as I could about this guy. All I know about him for sure is that he was the state entomologist for Alabama in the 1950s. So I don't have a lot of details about who he is and what he's done. Other than that, and I couldn't find anything about his education, where he went to school or anything. His name is David Sanders.
In the insect yearbook, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says, 100 years ago, when Henry W. Bates was collecting in the Amazon basin, he encountered villages that had been deserted because of the invasion of fire ants. Once on the move, they threaten all warm regions. We believe that imported fire ants came into this country by some means from South America about the year 1918. They spread without interference because they resembled a native fire ant. There is a record, though, that several mounds were found in Mobile County, Alabama in the mid-20s. But not until 1929 did we identify imported fire ants as a separate species, by which time they had already spread to neighboring counties.
Yeah.
Large-scale control efforts with a gas in 1937 reduced the number of ants for a time. But
with the gas, just with the gas, they don't even tell you what the gas was.
By 1947, they had spread to many areas in Alabama and Mississippi. The next year, Mississippi initiated a limited control program and obtained good results with an insecticide dust. Even though the infestation seemed to die down again in that area, the threat of this insect spreading beyond the 2 affected states was evident. They were spreading because modern transportation carries imported fire ants as hitchhikers. Transportation still does a good ant travel business.
The audio on this is so weird. It just like cuts out and then picks up and cuts out and picks up.
A common means of spread into new areas has been with balled and burlap nursery stock. Can any of us guess how many future imported fire ant colonies are present in just one ball of earth if the soil came from an infested area? In this way, man actually digs up, transports, and plants imported fire ants across county and state lines. But the chief means of...
True, we still do, too. And other invasive species as well. Including if you take like firewood into another state, you get the emerald ash borer, and those things are so destructive. Emerald ash borers, you want to talk about long-term damage. You know, forget the fire ants. Emerald ash borers are going to wreck things. Hey, Meek. Hey, Marty. Good to see ya. Good morning. Welcome to the show. We're talking about these old documentaries where they tried to promote the use of DDT in the United States. And
the natural spread is the...
We're going to get to the aftermath.
Flight. Winged forms are rarely seen. They live in seclusion until mating time. When the mating flight is about to occur, the entire colony becomes busy.
Yeah, they got to go on the nuptial flight.
The males and females take off for their one and only mating flight.
Yep, they're going to go form their own colony. Now this is the more realistic way that these colonies travel too. The more common way, I guess I should say, is that new colonies are formed like this through natural migration into habitable areas. If the land's good and can support them, they're going to start a colony.
The males die, and the fertilized queens return to Earth to find nesting sites.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The fire ants are definitely on the move. Right now in 1949, your radio listeners may not realize that we in Alabama face such a heavy fire ant infestation. Just look at these fire ant reports. With red-hot needle stings, this imported fire ant is making it mighty uncomfortable for us. We may never accurately figure the full cost of trying to live with this pest.
I have a question our listeners would like to have answered. Why doesn't Washington do something about this problem?
They are. Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida, with the help of the United States Department of Agriculture, have just started a cooperative project. You can tell your listeners that 1949 is the turning point. At long last, we're going to learn something about the biology, the control, the distribution, and the economic components of this pest.
Yeah, we're going to learn something, all right. We're going to learn a little bit about us, a little bit about the ants, and a lot about the dangers of putting freaking chemicals into the waterways.
Now your Alabama Radio Farm Reporter brings you news about the battle against the red-hot needle pest. I mean the imported fire ant. Joint federal state surveys are underway to determine the exact distribution and damage of the pest. The field survey work will start in the main infested area, here in Mobile, Baldwin, and Washington counties.
Well, that's how the fire ant survey started back in 1949. Now, in 1957, the governments of these fire ant-infested states and the U.S. Department of Agriculture joined forces to halt and to destroy this insect. Today, as county agent and as chairman of this civic association, I've called this meeting to discuss the fire ant problem and what's to be done about it. Now, first, I'd like to call upon our fire ant survey director, Mr. Jim Lawson. Jim, will you bring us up to date on this fire ant matter?
All
Thanks,
right.
Bill. Back in 1949, the imported fire ants holdings were relatively small. Its spectacular spread was just beginning. In that year, our original survey found the imported fire ant over an area approximately 7,000 square miles around Mobile. There were colonies ranging east to Pensacola, Florida, west to Pascagoula, Mississippi, and north to Grove Hill, Alabama.
Shout out to Mobile. Anybody's in Mobile, shout out to you. Origin of the fire ant.
By the end of 1953, the pest was known to infest 102 counties. In the spring of 1958, just after the present eradication program got underway, imported fire ant infestations were reported in 150 counties and parishes in 9 states. Unless checked,
And we're about to learn all about the eradication program.
the fire ant might even spread to the 40-degree line. This includes Philadelphia, Indianapolis, and Denver. And where conditions are right, the pest could become established north of that line. Under the new cooperative state local eradication program, large infested areas are broken into smaller units for installment treatment.
Installment treatment.
Thus, only a manageable portion of the total acreage is treated at a time.
What do you guess? What do you guys guess that they're treating it with?
According to this plan, in several years, our eradication program can be completed. Already, reports show good results in our fight against the fire ant.
This is your TV farm reporter bringing you the latest in the fire ant eradication program. And the areas treated to date, officials and farmers report excellent kills of fire ants. In the treatment, every precaution is taken to protect wildlife,
Just fire ants?
fish, and birds.
How are you protecting the wildlife, fish, and birds? That doesn't
This
look like
dry
it
insecticide pours like sugar. It does not stick to dry vegetation and will not be eaten by animals and birds feeding in foliage, berries, and fruits. Instead, it reaches the ground where it can destroy fire ants.
What else is on that ground, I wonder? So the plants, yeah, it's not sticking to the berries, right? It's just falling right down there into the earth where the roots are. And you said it's like sugar, does it? It's gonna melt right into that groundwater, huh? Gonna melt right into that groundwater. What's absorbing that groundwater? I bet it's the roots of those plants. Sounds like the roots of them plants are gonna absorb that groundwater with the poison in them. And then the plants are gonna produce berries and fruit and foliage for animals to eat. But you know what else? Animals are going to eat those. Anything that lives underground, including rodents, ground nesting birds, reptiles, a myriad of arachnids and insects. They're all going to absorb that fucking poison you're spreading all over the countryside with your little hand spinner.
Even though infestations cover lots of acreage, they're usually spotty and are therefore treated only where necessary.
I'll blast it right out your
Competent
window.
and experienced federal and state technicians supervise the work to ensure proper and effective application.
And they still do that with the trucks coming up and down the roads out here with the fogging stuff in the summer. I scream at them. Actually embarrassed my kids screaming at them one year.
Fish and wildlife agencies are working with the program.
Oh, let's...
Airplanes have been used against fire ants in a number of towns and cities, as well as rural areas.
Look at that. Dump it right into the water. Yeah, there you go. Right over the pond.
Inspector 1 to station. The cutoff at the pond was accurate. No drift. The men are moving over for the next swath. Over and out. Station to Inspector 1. Roger.
Dump it right into the water, and that way the fish can absorb it up. And then when our national bird flies down and grabs one of those fish to eat, because that's what bald eagles eat, guys. They eat fish. You know, they might be a mighty eagle, but they like to eat fish. Keep that in mind.
Wind velocity still under 8 miles per hour. Time for a few more loads. Joe, move over to the woods and check the cutoff there. Out.
I'm going to dump it in the woods, too,
Heavily wooded
huh?
areas are seldom infested with ants. That's why treatment from the air stops when the airplane approaches the trees.
Okay, good.
Ants move into open areas like logging roads and have to be eradicated by using ground equipment. Provided all people cooperate, there will be no damage when the airplanes or ground equipment go to work. No damage, that is, except to the fire ant.
You've been treating in our neighboring county.
Just the fire ant, right? That's the only kind of ant that this affects. All the other ant species, all the other hundreds of ant species that live in your states, completely immune to this treatment plan. Only the fire ants are going to be affected. We promise. We promise. The wood roaches, nope, they're going to be fine. The isopod population, it's not going to be impacted at all. The insects around the world are going to be just fine. We promise. Just let us spread this poison across the country, please.
Is it doing any good? In 1956, we began a program of treating by putting insecticide in the fertilized, and we covered our entire area that was open.
Yeah, you did.
We had lots of fire ants left in wooded areas, and hedgerows and fence rows. In this last year, we participated with the state and federal government in the overall program, treating by airplane, and we have a complete job of eradication on our farm.
I am from the county north of here, and prior to the time that we had this area treatment of fire ants, I lost a number of newborn lambs. But since then, why, I haven't lost one. You can readily see why I am highly pleased with the results of...
How's the crickets sound at night there, Jim Bob? Are they singing? Is it eerily quiet at night on your farm? Are there no butterflies and bees buzzing around your meadow? Kind of strange, huh? Wonder what happened to them all. Good thing this fire ant eradication program worked, though.
Of this program.
Well, I can tell you that the farmers in one heavily infested area whose places have been treated are mighty happy. In a single year, fire ants caused them an estimated $350,000 damage.
I've had fire ants on my place for the last 4 or 5 years. I treated each year by treating individual mounds with approved insecticides and thought that I was doing a good job.
Every couple of seconds, I want to bring up the Weekly World News guy. What's his name? He did the four freedoms or whatever. The freedom of speech. The guy standing doing the freedom of speech every 4 seconds on here. I'm expecting the guy's like, oh, say something controversial. These people didn't. These aren't the people that should know better, right?
But I evidently didn't treat far enough around the mound because each time they would come back many-fold. However, since the initiation of this program, where we treated the entire areas, I have gotten 100% kill and am very pleased with the program.
Well, as you know, one of our main sources of income is pasture grass seeds and small grain. And
how the hell would we know that, sir? I don't know you.
With the fire ants building those mounds up, it's impossible to combine. They get in your combine and clog it up, and then it's impossible to clean them out. And since we've been on this program of eradicating them, combine has been a pleasure.
It really worked on our farm. Last week we put up hay for the first time in several years without being bothered with fire ants. Up to the time it was treated with insecticide, it was mighty impossible to make hay. You had to move the bales even out of the field immediately, or the ants would get in the bales. We followed recommendations laid down in the program. We took our cattle off the pastures before treatment and kept them off until after it rained.
Yeah, oh good, because keep them off until after it rains. And that rain soaks that that DDT right into the soil. Then the cows don't have to worry about it because it's in the soil where they can't get to it. But wait a minute, what else? What do cows eat? They eat the grass in the field, and the roots of those plants are drinking up that groundwater that just absorbed all that DDT. How did people not realize that this was a problem at the time that it was happening?
And there were other recommendations like turn over or cover all water and feed containers.
Right.
We got
that'll just save everything. Turn over the feed containers.
Poultry undercover. If treatment is to be done when bees are active outside their hives, the beehive should be moved out of the treatment area.
It's easy to move beehives. All you gotta do is wait till dark. I don't know why they're doing it in the middle of the day. If you need to move your beehives, wait till the sun goes down. Put a thing over it and then move it. It's not trying to move it during the day is just asking for trouble. Bees won't fly at night and they'll all be inside. But at this point they are acknowledging it that this chemical is going to kill wildlife if they're exposed to it. And domesticated animals seem to be their main concern at this portion of the video, including the domestic honeybee. The domestic honeybee, unfortunately, is going to be subject to just the same thing as the cows and the fish and everybody else, because this gets it. The DDT absorbs it into the water system, into the groundwater. So what the flowers and the plants and the trees are all drinking now is DDT tainted water.
The insecticide is applied when bees aren't active, such as during cold months. The beehive should be covered. Those were the main precautions we took, and we didn't have a bit of trouble.
After an area has been treated for fire ants, can it be reinfested? Well, that's a question for our state entomologist, Mr. Dave Sanders. Dave? Scientists in the field of entomology...
There's Dave Sanders again. This is the... I'm going to assume he's like a comic book villain of an entomologist. He's like the anti-Bree.
With this problem all the time. We've moved a long way towards solving it with the advent of residual or long-lasting insecticides. The ones used in this program give effective control of fire ants for up to 3 years after they're applied. Even with this kind of protection against reinfestation, you can see that any insect suppression program is only temporary unless all the trouble spots are cleaned up.
Is there anything being done to keep the fire ants from spreading to the other parts of the country?
Oh, yes, indeed. Federal and state quarantines are in effect in fire ant-infested areas. They regulate movement of materials such as soil and unprocessed sand and gravel, grass sod, plants with soil attached to grow in forests, fields, and nurseries, and any other articles and products that are likely to spread the fire ant. Effective treatments are available to destroy ants in these materials. Your state and federal inspectors will be glad to give you advice on moving such products. All right. It's been brought out in this meeting that we have at least 3 primary objectives in our fight against the fire ant. First, we want to prevent further spread of this pest. And secondly, we must locate and eradicate these outlying infestations. And finally, we want to develop county or area-wide eradication programs in the...
Notice none of those 3 steps have any kind of safety regulations in mind. They did not have any kind of contingency at all for how to clean this up when it goes bad, right? When we find out this stuff that they're propagating to spread all over the country is killing wildlife at unforeseeable rates, still to this day, it would be rough to say we're in recovery from it. Some species have recovered from it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this video's only got about a minute left, so.
These generally infested areas.
Well, what can we as individuals do?
I'm glad you asked that question, because the help of both rural and urban people is needed if we really want to get rid of this pest. Now, here are some of the things that all of you can do. First, participate in community action, such as you have in attending meetings like this, and you will help wipe out this pest. Secondly, give survey and eradication workers free access to your property. Follow all the recommended precautions when insecticides are applied. Report infestations which you suspect are fire ants to your county agent or state entomologist. It will take a long, hard fight to rout this costly and troublesome pest from all its holdings in the South. Just as we have cleansed the nation of other insects, the imported fire ant can be eliminated. Such a campaign is much more effective and far cheaper than living with the pest.
Well, what is your verdict? Can man win the battle with this pest? Everyone thinks man has inherited the earth. But for how long?
All right, that's the last old-timey video we'll watch. There is something else I wanted to watch here just from, this is like a little TED Talk video. It's only 5 minutes long, but this will tell us a little bit more about Rachel Carson. Those who dwell among the beauties and mysteries of the earth are never alone or weary of life.
In 1958, Rachel Carson received a letter describing songbirds suddenly dropping from tree branches. The writer blamed their deaths on a pesticide called DDT that exterminators had sprayed on a nearby marsh. The letter was the push Carson needed to investigate DDT. She had already heard from scientists and conservationists who were worried that rampant use of the pesticide
I want to find out what happened to that guy who ate the spoonfuls of it, though. You need an update on the jungle visitor who's trying to convince the African tribesmen to spray DDT on their tents, and they told him to fuck off. I want to know what happened to that scientist who's like, "What, you can eat spoonfuls of it, it's fine."
posed a threat to fish, birds, and possibly humans. She began to make inquiries through government contacts from her years working in the United States Bureau of Fisheries. She asked, "What has already silenced the voices of spring?" In 1962, Carson published her findings in Silent Spring. Her book documented the misuse of chemicals and their toll on nature and human health. Silent Spring immediately drew both applause and impassioned dissent, along with vicious personal attacks on the author. How did this mild-mannered biologist and writer ignite such controversy?
Writer and queen. She's a straight-up queen. Unfortunately, she passed away from cancer like shortly after this, so she wasn't very old.
Carson began her career as a hard-working graduate student, balancing her studies in biology at Johns Hopkins University with part-time jobs. Still, she had to leave school before completing her doctorate to provide for her ailing father and sister. Carson found part-time work with the Bureau of Fisheries, writing for a radio program on marine biology. Her ability to write materials that could hold the general public's attention impressed her superiors, and in 1936, she became the second woman to be hired at the Bureau full-time. In 1941, she published the first of 3 books on the ocean, combining science with lyrical meditations.
So she was definitely established as a naturalist and scientist, biologist by the end of the 1930s for sure. She was like known and respected in the community.
Underwater worlds. These explorations resonated with a wide audience. In Silent Spring, Carson turned her attention to the ways human actions threaten the balance of nature. DDT was originally used during World War II to shield crops from insects and protect soldiers from insect-borne diseases. After the war, it was routinely sprayed in wide swaths to fight pests, often with unforeseen results. One attempt to eradicate fire ants in the southern U.S. killed wildlife indiscriminately, but did little to eliminate the ants.
Which is the operations that we just watched the videos about how good they were doing. They were eradicating all the insects, but the fire ants were springing right back. And some of the other animals, some of the other insects we're not so lucky, right? We lost species in this war on fire ants.
In spite of this and other mishaps, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and chemical companies extolled the benefits of DDT. There was little regulation or public awareness about its potential harm, but Carson showed...
We just watched it. We just watched the consumer propaganda and the agricultural propaganda that was being promoted about this.
How the overuse of chemicals led to the evolution of resistant species, which in turn encouraged the development of deadlier chemicals. Since DDT does not dissolve in water, she asserted that over time it would accumulate in the environment. The bodies of insects, the tissues of animals who consume those insects, and eventually humans. She suggested that exposure to DDT might alter the structure of genes with unknown consequences for future generations. The response to Silent Spring was explosive. For many people, the book was a call to regulate substances capable of catastrophic harm.
Yeah, it did show that it was showing up in women's breast milk, like for real it did. That was actually a study that was done. Save the bald eagles. The natural world, chemical change organisms. We have the right to know what the government is doing. There is DDT in breast milk. Save our babies. What we need to wake up. No.
Others objected that Carson hadn't mentioned DDT's role controlling the threat insects posed to human health. Former Secretary of Agriculture Ezra Taft Benson demanded to know why a spinster with no children was so concerned about genetics, and dismissed Carson as probably a communist.
Oh, wasn't the 50s wonderful? A woman who speaks up against the system, right? And says, this is having a negative impact. This is the Secretary of Agriculture. They're supposed to be making sure our food and livestock are safe and healthy. Who's dismissing a woman who says, hey, I think this is poisoning all the life in the area.
A lawyer for a pesticide manufacturer alluded to Carson and her supporters as sinister influences, aiming to paint businesses as immoral. In reality, Carson had focused on the dangers of chemicals.
A business is immoral. A business has no moral compass. A business is not. That's not how that works. There can be individuals within the business that are moral, and even someone who uses their own personal morals to direct the business. But the business itself is amoral, right? And it's usually profit driven, right? And it can be seen as immoral because it does not it will focus only on profit, not on like human suffering or not on suffering of any kind. So it can be, but it has no intention. There's no morality within the business, only within the people running it.
Because they weren't widely understood, while the merits were well publicized. She rejected the prevailing belief that humans should and could control nature. Instead, she challenged people to cultivate maturity and mastery, not of nature, but of ourselves.
Sounds base to me, babe.
Carson died of cancer in 1964, only 2 years after the publication of Silent Spring. Her work galvanized a generation of environmental activists. In 1969, under pressure from environmentalists, Congress passed the National Environmental Policy Act that required federal agencies to evaluate environmental impacts of their actions. To enforce the act, President Richard Nixon created the Environmental Protection Agency. And in 1972, the EPA issued a partial ban on the use of DDT. Long after her death, Rachel Carson continued to advocate for nature through the lingering impact of her writing.
Definitely, if you get a chance to get a copy of one of her books or just to read even some excerpts of her writing, she's a very poetic writer too. It's just well-written verse, really.
Stand in the name of truth is no easy task. For another impressive tale of strong conviction.
All right, so, yeah. She was based, right? Rachel Carson was awesome, but what little she could do other than publish her work, but at least it will open people's eyes to what was going on. Obviously, I'm of a generation that came into prominence after, long after this. My parents told me about this time period. And this is what my dad was always on about, because this was his favorite animal in the world, was the bald eagle, right? He'd go do the eagle watches. on the river. He would, like in the winter, we'd bundle up and go watch the eagles fish under the dam where the ice was, where there was no ice, because back then the Mississippi stayed frozen pretty much all winter long. It doesn't happen anymore, not here anyway. I don't know if I've seen it frozen solid in years. Anyway, so he was really into eagles, right? And he would always talk to me about this because this was his boyhood. He was born in 1957. So his boyhood was during the Save the Eagles campaign of the mid to late 60s. And at a point in time, we were really running out of eagles. Let me just read this little article for you. It's from 2015, but it's relevant now. As relevant now as it ever was. The death of a 38-year-old bald eagle, the nation's oldest in New York Road, made a national headline last year. So it would have been about 10 years ago. The attention showed just how far we've come in our protection and concern for these magnificent and once endangered birds. The national symbol since 1782, the bald eagle was on the brink of extinction just a few decades back in 1963. There were only 487 nesting pairs left in the United States, down from at least 100,000 when the first settlers reached North America. An estimated 5,000 pairs of eagles are living in the lower 48 today. The birds' recovery is a success story made possible by the tireless Americans who fought to save the iconic animal against its worst enemy yet, the nasty pesticide known as DDT. Hunting and habitat loss had already made a dent in the bird's population by the time the DDT hit the market to boost agricultural output and tackle malaria after World War II. It was initially a very efficient pesticide that earned its inventor a Nobel Prize. So effective, in fact, that it also began to eradicate birds high up in the food chain and affected human health. The war against DDT. We knew DDT was damaging the eggshells of birds, preventing chicks and egglets from hatching, recalled Art Cooley, who co-founded the Environmental Defense Fund with Charlie Worster and Dennis Poulston in 1967 to halt the devastating effects of DDT was having on the wildlife and especially birds. Their groundbreaking efforts were chronicled in the 2015 year Worster's book, DDT Wars, which is probably available on most book platforms for you if you wanted to get a copy of it. We took Suffolk County to court and won an injunction against the use of DDT, Cooley said. After the victory, we pursued the case state by state until we ultimately won a nationwide ban in 1972. The ban came 10 years after Rachel Carson first warned of DDT in her epic bestseller, Silent Spring, and it would take another quarter century for the bird to finally be removed from the federal list of threatened and endangered species. But we did it. We saved the eagles, and we've seen the other birds almost killed off by DDT come soaring back too. Peregrine falcons, osprey, pelicans, falcons, hawks, all predatory and fish-eating fish vulnerable to pesticides are recovering. So let's celebrate unshakable Americans such as Cooley, Worster, and Poulston, who did not take no for an answer as they work to make a better country for all living things. It's a cause worth fighting for. All right, so when it comes to DDT, when it comes to untested pesticides, I'm glad we have the EPA now. But it's funny because they spent the 1980s trying to convince us the EPA was the bad guys. Remember, like Ghostbusters, the villain of the movie was the guy from the EPA who wanted to shut him down for operating unknown chemical processing or whatever in their firehouse. Made them the villain, right? There's so many, you know, we talk about all the birds and things that we saved. We don't ever talk about what went extinct from DDT. So let me look. Do we have any known extinctions? I guess it's hard to make a direct a direct link. Everything I look up about extinction and DDT is bringing up the bald eagle stuff, which they were really close. So with peregrine falcons, and they were having issues. Pelicans were obviously these birds that live off of fish, right? They need clean, fresh fish to be able to thrive. And if the entire waterway is being sprayed, you saw with their poofer cans, they were literally spraying right into the water. You know, there's no way that they won't be contaminated. They have to be contaminated. So like all the fish, and you saw this the painting on stuff that they used to do. If you have old screens somewhere in your house, if you have, you know, again, someplace where you may still have DDT on your property, you know, someplace where people don't touch very often. It was designed to crystallize on the surface. So it may, you know, unless it's been wiped off by something over the years, it's still there. So we stopped using it, and no, everything's good now. No, the damage is done, right? We killed if we look at the population of all organisms, but insects specifically, in North America, over the last 50 years or so, even since the DDT stopped, the population declines continued, you know. Yeah, that caused the DDT caused a massive drop that life never recovered from that. Okay, let's be clear. Life never bounced back from that. Certain species were prevented from dying off completely, but the eagles haven't recovered their numbers from DDT era. You know, nothing has. And things are just declining constantly. So I'm going to keep beating this drum. And I'm going to keep shouting from the rooftop until I'm blue in the face and I don't have any more voice. And what else can I do but keep spreading the word that we are losing this battle to save the environment, to save all these different ecologies that we are going to find out the hard way that we actually depend on in order to thrive. So, if you like what I'm doing here, you want to support the Hive, there's a few different ways. Obviously, you got the patrons running down below, so you can join the patrons, the old school team of patrons out there. Or you can be a channel member. You can also make donations through super chats and things like that. If you make a donation through a super chat, I'll read it. I also have Buy Me a Coffee, so you can help support me there. I'm not doing a lot of stuff in the field right now because I'm dealing with some personal stuff, but I will still continue to produce content to draw attention to these types of topics. So do what you can if you want to support me and you want to support my environmental efforts, and you want to, hopefully I can take a more proactive position in the future. So thank you so much for sticking with me through this Sci-Fails episode where we went way back into the archives of American history to see one of our greatest modern failures. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time. Alright, so live from the Hive audience. I know that was a long one. It went longer than I planned to, and I didn't intend to watch that whole last video, but I just couldn't find a good spot to stop. So this show's gonna run extra long today. I know we still got a half an hour of runtime, but I still have 2 more topics to cover too, and one of them's kind of a longer one. But that's all right. Stick with me. We are gonna continue on the dealing with invasiveness train, actually, ironically enough. So I will see you guys after this short intermission. All right, hello, and welcome to yet another installment of Bree's Bestiary, where I pick an animal that I want to talk about, and I frickin' talk about it, because this is my show. Welcome one and all. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee, and I'm, somebody's upstairs doing something crazy. There's some dumping. Yeah. I'm going to be diving into, it's funny because we just did, this won't be lined up with it, but we just did the live from the Hive. We just did the fire ant video about Silent Spring and stuff, in the eradication program that nearly wiped out all the birds in North America. Anyway, and today I'm talking on Bree's Bestiary about an animal that has, in modern times, around the same time of the period that we're talking about, became another invasive species in North America. But that's not the main focus, right? We will talk about how they fare in North America, but we're talking, of course, about the iguana, the green iguana specifically, and they are now found pretty much all over southern Florida, but it does get cold there, and sometimes they do fall from the trees. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history with iguanas. So, my dad didn't like snakes, but he loved lizards and turtles. It's kind of a weird thing since lizards are snakes, but since snakes are lizards, I said that backwards. That we ended up getting, because me and my brother, we were really into animals. I still am, obviously. You see all the animals behind me. So, but we had lots of herps, frogs and turtles and lizards, all mostly wild caught, but we get some from the pet shop too. And when I was about, I want to say 8 years old, we went to the pet shop and we bought this little iguana. It's got this big, cute little thing, right? Adorable. Got a little aquarium for it. It's completely vegetarian, so it's like, oh, you don't even have to worry about feeding it bugs or anything. You just feed it with literally the table scraps and stuff from when you're making the vegetables for dinner that night. You know, it'll eat everything from peppers to strawberries. You chop it up and feed it to it, it's going to eat them. And we named her Godzilla. You named it Godzilla. It was. We didn't know if it was male or female until it grew up, and boy, did it grow up. So we had it for years, and it kept growing and getting bigger, and kept having to buy bigger aquariums for it. And eventually, we got too big for any aquarium at all that they sold like on the market that wasn't, you know, ten or thousands of dollars. So my dad literally built it a screen. He used PVC pipes and mesh screen, and made it this huge cage. It was like the size of a human casket. More like I guess more like a refrigerator when you stood up on its side. When we put it outside, sometimes we'd lay it long way and sometimes we'd stand it up, but there was like branches and stuff in there for it to climb on. And Godzilla got huge. Godzilla turned out to be female, so she didn't get as big as a male would of her age. She's actually probably about the same size as the one you're seeing on screen right now. She was a big, about as big around as I don't know, a paper towel roll at her fattest, but a toilet paper roll. And she was pretty sweet. She did have her moods, but she bit my dad on the nose once. So I grew up with iguanas in the house, or in the house and in the yard. We ended up, after, because we loved Godzilla so much, we ended up investing into building stuff. So we got more iguanas, right? We got new iguanas, JJ, and I think my brother named his Ganji when he had one. So we had, and JJ actually turned out to be male. But JJ didn't get full grown. JJ got now this is a full grown male right here. There's a few things a few ways you can tell, but I think mostly prominently is that the spikes on the top of the head are a lot taller, and the dewlap will be broader and more colorful. Like, let's see, let me compare this. So here's your male. So you've got these taller spines, and there's this ridge that they come off of that runs down the back of the head. It's also got the dewlap's a lot bigger, and the males tend to have more of this orange color, especially during mating season, whereas a female looks more like, that's not a very good picture of her, but got a better angle of her. These are small. There's that one's dead. Yeah, it's not a very good picture of her, but females will have narrower heads and less prominent dewlaps. So, anyway, I was just playing this while I was talking about growing up with iguanas. But yeah, we take them on walks with leashes, and they climb trees and stuff. Godzilla was the one that got the biggest. She was the one we had the longest too. She lived with us for, let's see, I was 8 to 16 maybe. So about 8 years maybe. It seems like it was longer than that because she was huge. We had her for a while though. She actually got killed by a dog. Unfortunately, you'll find dogs are pretty good at killing iguanas. Cats are not. Iguanas are kind of a cat's weakness. Of one animal that cats has low hit points against. But let me see here. We already watched that through. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how iguanas came to North America, because they're not native here. Florida has the unfortunate distinction of being the global epicenter of non-native reptiles due to intentional and unintentional actions of people. The state's mild climate, abundance of rainfall, expansive areas modified by humans, numerous international ports of entry, sea and air, as well as a thriving exotic pet trade, all contribute to reptile invasions. Historically, the introduction of reptiles into Florida was unintentional. Reptiles were stowaways on ships and cargo. The first documented reptile introduced to Florida was the brown anole, Anolis sagri, in the late 1800s. The small lizard likely arrived accidentally in shipments of cargo originating from Cuba. Since then, more than 150 additional non-native reptile species have been documented in Florida, the vast majority of which were brought there through the reptile pet trade. Although most introductions do not result in the establishment or breeding population of non-native reptiles, many do. Of those species that become established, some thrive and expand, eventually becoming invasive. We define an invasive species of reptile as one that is not native to a specific geographic region, in this case the state of Florida, and was introduced by the intentional or unintentional actions of humans, and does or can cause harm to the environment, economy, or human quality of life. So that kind of makes it sound like armadillos up here could be considered invasive because they weren't here 10 years ago, and now they are through the direct actions of humans via climate change. But we don't call armadillos invasive, do we? Because they came here naturally under their own migration patterns. A well-known example of the invasive reptiles in Florida is the Burmese python. The large species of snake was imported for the exotic pet trade, and by way of escape and or purposeful release, the pets became established in the Everglades. Scientific studies have shown invasive pythons have caused severe decline in native mammals in the Everglades and have introduced parasites affecting Florida's native snakes. Further, federal agencies have spent millions of dollars to manage impacts of pythons and prevent them from expanding into ranges further north than the peninsula and south into the Florida Keys. Also wanted to say hi, AJ. Good morning. I saw you pop in here earlier. Good to see you, friend. And how to rule an asteroid. Good to see you. Good to see ya. Thank you guys for sticking around and hanging out with me. The publication summarizes general knowledge about the green iguana in Florida. It is one in the series of similar publications showcasing a suite of commonly seen or unique introduced reptiles that are established in the state. The biology and impact of some of these species are well known, whereas others are poorly studied. This fact sheet and others in the series were produced by undergraduate students in the course Invasion Ecology of Amphibians and Reptiles, which was taught in the fall semester of 2020 at the University of Florida. The target audience for all the documents in this series is homeowners and other residents and visitors who are curious about Florida's diverse wildlife. Our goal is to increase knowledge and raise awareness about the many introduced and invasive reptiles in Florida, as well as to motivate people to take action in the fight to curtail the spread of introduced reptiles in the Sunshine State. Identifying a green iguana. All right, so they do have some different varieties, but as the common names suggest, green iguanas are usually green. The juveniles are particularly bright green. Adults vary from bold to dull green, but may be olive or brown in color. Males in breeding condition may even be a striking orange, as we saw in that video previously. This shade varies with temperature, and they tend to be dark during cooler weather and to better absorb the warmth from the sun. So yeah, you can actually lay your hands around an iguana's midsection and move your fingers back, and it'll be dark where your fingers were, and it'll be brighter where your fingers weren't. Pretty cool. You make them look like they have tiger stripes. That's what I used to do, is like lay my hand down the iguana's back, and it ended up looking like it has stripes. Let's see. Regardless of their color, all green iguanas share several distinguishing features. They have long tails, but relatively short legs with long toes and sharp claws for climbing. Both sexes have a flap of skin hanging from their lower jaw called a dewlap, and a large round scale at the rear of their jaws, as seen in the adult male in figure 6. So it's this ring here, ring there, ring there. There's the figure 6 right there, right there. Yeah, okay, let me go back up in here and read it. As seen in the adult male in figure 6, they also have a row of spike-like scales on their necks, back, and portions of their tail. These scales are typically longer in mature males than in females. Green iguanas grow much larger than any native lizard in Florida. Males can grow to over 6 feet, including the tail, whereas females can reach just over 5 feet. The tails account for as much as 3/4 of their total length. Hatchling green iguanas measure about 7 inches, including the tail. And our iguana got to be, I think she was, when she died, she was like 3 foot 9 inches long. So she's full grown and pretty beefy. She did lose her tail once, and when it grew back, it was black. Or just the last, I don't know what you would say, few inches of it was black. Juvenile and adult green iguanas may be green, but many adults are not green. Yeah, they can be olive color, even a gray, a brownish gray, and then you get the horny males that turn orange. Similar looking species, although no species of native Florida lizard is likely to be misidentified as a green iguana. There are several introduced species that could be mistaken for a green iguana. The black spiny-tailed iguana is established in many of the same areas as the green iguana, namely along the southern Gulf and Atlantic coast. Some of the Florida Keys, the two species body plans are similar, but black spiny-tailed iguanas are shorter than green iguanas. Black spiny-tailed iguanas have spines along their back like the green iguana, but they are not as long as those of green iguanas of the same size. As their name implies, spiny-tailed iguanas have rings of sharp, pointed scales on their tails. These are not present on green iguanas. Adult black spiny-tailed iguanas are normally brown or gray with several dark bands on their back, but young ones are often green and could be mistaken for a small green iguana. Look at the rows of spines on the tail, and I'm reading like shit this last segment. Sorry, guys. And another introduced species of iguana is the Florida or Mexican spiny-tailed iguana. This is the species that looks almost identical to the black spiny-tailed iguana, and the two can be difficult for scientists to distinguish, but these are what they look like. And you can see their tails have sort of like a crocodile look to them, makes them a little bit more distinct than the green iguana's tail, which we can see here is more serpentine, more snake-like, where theirs is more crocodile textured. Juvenile green iguanas may be confused with introduced night anoles, which also occur in South Florida. Adult night anoles are around 5 to 6.5 inches long, excluding the tail, which is 11. Okay. So roughly the same length as a hatchling green iguana. Both are vibrant green, but the night anole has yellow, sometimes white stripes under its eyes and on its shoulders, and lacks the round scale at the rear of the jaw. The night anole's head is more elongated and arrow-shaped than the head of a green iguana, which is more rounded. I don't know. I couldn't mistake this for a green iguana. That head is way too much of the body. Doesn't mention that in the description, but yeah, its head's like two-thirds, is about a third the size of its body. Native range. Green iguanas naturally range from central Mexico to Paraguay and Brazil in South America. They are also native to some Caribbean islands near Central and South American coasts. They occur in tropical forest, dry forest, and savanna habitats, often near water. Mode of introduction. Green iguanas were first introduced to Florida and the Miami area in the early 1960s. As an exotic pet dealer is known to have purposely released more than 300 of them in that area in 1964. Why would you do that, asshole? Since then, additional intentional and unintentional releases of pet iguanas have likely contributed to their spread in peninsular Florida. Green iguanas have been among the most common popular pet reptile in the United States in Florida because they're attractive and relatively easy to care for when they're small. However, they become more difficult to keep and their cage requirements become more challenging as they grow, making it more likely that they will be intentionally released and contribute to the invasive reptile problem. Florida range and habitat. Based on museum records and numerous observations reported in EDD maps, green iguanas appear to be established in much of central and southern Florida, including the Keys on the mainland. They occur mainly near the coast. The northern extent of their Florida distribution is limited by colder temperatures. In their introduced ranges, green iguanas are common in urbanized landscapes. In addition to thriving in human-modified areas in Florida, like suburban neighborhoods, they also inhabit natural habitats such as mangroves and pinelands. They are common along canals and levees in southern Florida, and their ability to colonize such areas, which can act as corridors for dispersal, has likely contributed to the range expansion. Green iguanas are excellent climbers and prefer areas with trees, but they also occur in places lacking them. They are almost always found near permanent water and are strong swimmers. When startled, they are quick to dive into water, only crawling back onto land when the perceived threat has passed. They are active during the day and are frequently seen on the ground or in trees and shrubs, warming themselves in the sun, basking. In places where they are used in human activity, or they are used to human activities, they will bask on the sidewalk, golf courses. Fuck your golf courses again. Let's reestablish that we are saying fuck your golf courses. I said that more times on this stream than any other. They will also shelter in drainage pipes. No, hold on, we skipped ahead. In places, at night they sleep in trees of presence, crevices and rocks, and dig and burrows that they dig. They will also enter shelters in draining pipes, culverts, piles of debris, and similar hiding places created by people. They use their burrows and other underground refugia as hiding places when they're disturbed by people. And this is the problem when they destroy like retaining walls and stuff, because they dig into them. They dig their burrows into like flood, like levees and things like that, breaking down their integrity. The green iguana is largely herbivorous and eats a variety of plants. They prefer flowers, fruit, tender shoots, and many ornamental plants, but typically avoid citrus and thick-leaved plants. Hatchlings and juveniles eat insects in addition to vegetation. Juveniles and adults have been documented eating tree snails, and adult green iguanas have occasionally eat small vertebrates and bird eggs, and will even scavenge carrion. Yeah, our girl did like a little bit of bugs in her diet. When we would let her outside, she'd eat grasshoppers and stuff. when we have her walking around the backyard. Also, when we bring her cage out, they get into her cage too. Like most reptiles, the green iguana lays eggs. Females dig relatively shallow nest burrows that are about a foot deep and up to 3 foot long. In their native range, females may nest communally and create a series of connected burrows. They lay approximately 10 to 70 eggs in the nest in their nest burrows, and the eggs incubate for 2 to 3 months without parental care. A study in southern Florida found that males can reach sexual maturity as early as 16 months and females as early as 24 months. The breeding season in Florida is between December and April, with the hatchlings appearing during the summer. The absence of predators or competitors, the green iguana can live a long time, reaching 15 to 20 years. Because they grow large, adult iguanas have few predators in Florida other than humans. Domestic dogs will kill adult green iguanas, and American alligators and crocodiles are potential predators, but only the eggs and the very young iguanas are usually at risk of predation. Mammalian predators of green iguana eggs in Florida include gray foxes and likely raccoons. Raccoons will eat hatchlings and very young iguanas, and raccoon predation may suppress iguana population growth under the right circumstances. Additional predators of the very small iguanas include species of birds, as summarized in scientific publications. Negative ecological effects, of course, there's going to be negative ecological effects because we are indeed dealing with an invasive species today. So, green iguanas have been documented using the burrows of Florida's native burrowing owls and gopher tortoises, both of which are listed as threatened species by the state. The presence of iguanas could potentially displace these native species from their burrows. Green iguanas will occasionally eat bird eggs, but to date there's been no scientific evidence that they have harmed bird populations in Florida. Green iguanas are primarily herbivorous and eat flowers, leaves, and fruits of ornamental plants. As a result, they could transport seeds of cultivated plants, including invasive species, into nearby natural areas and undermine efforts to control invasive plants in nature reserves. However, a study of green iguana movement in southeast Florida found that iguanas at least 2 locations did not move very far, suggesting that their impact to natural areas through seed dispersal may be minimal. Gray nickerbean is among the many plants that the green iguana feeds on in South Florida. The species is one of 2 primarily host plants for caterpillars of the Miami blue butterfly, Cycleragus thomasi b. Thunkenbakari. Wow, that's quite the name. Which only occurs in Florida and is a federally listed endangered species. The Miami blue prefers to lay its eggs on developing shoots of flowers or flower buds of the nickerbean. The small butterfly has only been found in 3 places in the past 20 years. Key West National Wildlife Refuge, Great Heron National Wildlife Refuge, and Baha'i, I think maybe, Honda State Park. In the early 2000s, green iguanas at Baha'i Honda State Park were eating so much nickerbean that scientists concluded they were depriving the Miami blue butterfly of its food and may have been one of several potential factors contributing to its eventual loss, of the Miami blue population at Baha'i Honda National Park. Impact to people and pets. How much longer is this article? Damn. I had a video I wanted to watch too. It's after 12:30 now. Alright, yeah, we're gonna watch just, here's somebody that this guy reheats this iguana and it's cute. Alright.
Got one? Yeah. Really? We're gonna go as quick as possible. Okay, we got him. We're gonna set him in the sink, and we're gonna start filling the sink up right now. He's still totally lifeless when we hold him like this. Oh my gosh, guys, look at him. He's twitching. He's twitching back to life. What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope all of you are having just an absolutely amazing day. I hope everyone had an absolutely amazing Christmas. My Christmas was great. I got to spend it with the family. We did a bunch.
I didn't do much for Christmas. Save the butterflies, barbecue, and iguana. I hear iguanas actually taste really good. I don't know, but I've heard.
Great stuff. But for today's video, well, last night it was down to 43
Kite
degrees.
Uranus.
And what does that mean? Well, in Florida, that means it was pretty darn cold for all of us, and it means iguanas are falling from the trees. Here in Florida, we have invasive green iguanas, and when it gets down into the low 40s, well, the iguanas start getting cold stunned, they start falling from the trees, and they're basically lifeless. They're basically in a coma, and when they actually warm back up, they come back to life, but some of them are not so lucky. So we're actually going to be going to the backside of my property today to see if we can find some of these green iguanas that are cold stunned, fallen from the trees, and we're going to reheat these iguanas back to life. It is going to be absolutely insane. I've never reheated an iguana back to life. It's going to be absolutely amazing. But before we do that, well, we've got some updates. I've got to show you guys.
He says absolutely as much as I do.
Some stuff. So if you look right here, I've got this big, incredible enclosure here. Now, obviously, it doesn't look like much right now at this point. But this is actually a big corn crib, and it's got this big roof right here. So I'm gonna put in the avocado grove, and because there are some canals nearby, I actually have iguanas that wander into my yard. I see them up on the front of my property, and I also see them back here in the avocado grove. And avocado season, the avocados literally come tumbling down, and they're all over the ground, and the iguanas here actually love to eat them, and at nighttime, they hang up in the trees. They hang out now. Oh my gosh. Look at that. I just walked into a spider web. This is a little crab spider. Guys, I'm normally afraid of spiders, but these right here, I'm not really afraid of. Okay, and then he just fell. He left. Okay, let's get this spider web out of here. So we should have a pretty good chance of finding some iguanas. It's only 50 degrees out right now. It's a little bit cold for me, and it's windy, so we should have some iguanas that... Wait, I see it on the camera. There. Oh, I see one. Oh my gosh, look. Guys. Our first cold stun iguana. I saw him literally in the lens. I saw the change of green. Oh my gosh, is this guy okay? Oh, this one looks like he's totally... Looks like he didn't make it. It looks like he totally froze over. Look at his eyes. His eyes are a little cloudy, and when they turn this dark brown color, that means that they didn't make it. This guy was frozen to death in the cold last night. This is so terrible to see. Now, iguanas are an invasive species, but I don't like to see them die. I absolutely love it.
Right, there's lots of channels that you can watch of iguana. Like there's one called the Iguana Man, and most of their channel is them shooting iguanas with rifles and bows and things like that, and killing them. I have a soft spot for iguanas, so it makes me sad.
Iguanas. Well, this guy is full of mites, and well, there's some native raccoons and possums that would probably love to snack on an iguana, so we're just gonna leave that little guy right there. You know, normally I do bury them, but I do have raccoons and possums here, and I'd rather them, you know, munch on a dead iguana than eat some of my own lizards. So now that we found that little guy, it's really sad that he did not make it. Sorry about the light. Oh my gosh. Well, we're off to actually a pretty good start. Number one, because that green iguana is invasive, you know, he's really not supposed to be here. And two, we know that there are iguanas here, and last night it got really cold. So we're gonna continue the search in the avocado grove back here, and hopefully we'll find some iguanas we can save. Well, I've been searching back here for probably about 30 minutes now. I really haven't seen anything else. I saw one iguana like way up, but that tree is like, he's like way up on the top of that tree, and I'm definitely not climbing up there, but I recruited the help of my dad and my grandpa because this is 2 acres of avocado grove. It's, you know, a lot of area back here. So I recruited them. They're looking as well, all up in the branches, because when these iguanas are frozen, they're gonna be stunted in place. They're either gonna... You got one?
Yay, get one.
Really? Okay, so like I was saying, the iguanas will be either frozen in place or they're gonna fall down. Let's see, sorry, it's really bright. Oh yeah, look at them. Guys, look at it. Wait, let's adjust the lighting. Look at them, guys. There's an iguana right up in those trees. Well, I'm passing the camera off to my dad. I'm gonna climb up right now. We're gonna go as quick as possible. Okay, we got him.
If he's frozen, why'd you have to snatch him so fast, hon? If he was gonna run away, he looks bright and green.
I think he's alive. I'm not sure if he's totally dead because like you guys saw the other one was totally dead. His eyelid's barely working. If you look at his eyelid, it's barely opening. Guys, this iguana's alive, but he could be too severely stunned, guys. So we're gonna have to take this guy inside right now, and we're gonna put him in the sink, and we're gonna slowly warm the water and hopefully bring him back to life.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
All right, guys, we're back in the kitchen, and we're gonna actually get ready to reheat this iguana back. And I decided the best way to do it is actually we're gonna stick him in the microwave for about 30 seconds. And yeah, that's what we're gonna do, guys. Let's go over. We're gonna stick him in the microwave right now. We're just gonna, no, guys, I'm just kidding with you guys. I would never do that to a poor iguana. We're gonna heat him up in the sink. I decided to do the Zach Ketchum method, do the same exact thing. So we're just gonna take him right here. We're gonna put him in the sink right now. And we're gonna turn the water to warm. Now, the one thing is whenever you're reheating any stunned animals is you never ever want to immediately give them the hottest water because then you'll put them into shock. They're going from really cold to really hot. You don't want to do that. You want to gradually raise the temperature, and that is how you successfully do it without killing the animal, is by gradually moving them from cold to warm. So we're going to set this guy right here. I'm sorry, buddy. We're going to set him in the sink, and we're going to start filling the sink up right now. We're on the warm setting right now. We're just going to kind of move over to the mid setting, and we're just going to wait for this water to warm up. And hopefully once the water warms, we'll be able to bring the iguana back to life. We're actually slowly warming this water up, and the iguana is starting to move. Look at him. Look at him. He's starting to come back to life. Look at it. He's still totally frozen, as you can see. He's still totally lifeless when we hold him like this, but I feel, if you guys could feel him right now, he's giving off some muscle spasms, his dewlap.
I guarantee that iguana's like, as soon as I get thawed out, I'm gonna bite your fingers for doing this, for twisting me all around and hanging me by my tail.
Is moving, so we're just gonna put him back in, and we're gonna rest.
That's because they have iron teeth there, Titan. Nutria, they got iron in those teeth, like a beaver.
Rest him right up here. By resting him up here, he's not going to actually drown, but we're just going to slowly warm him back.
Nutria kind of like little capybaras.
Back up, guys, and we're going to see if we can save his life. Oh, I feel him vibrating. So, guys, what I want you to do right now is go comment down below a name for this little iguana right now. You know, when we're done with him, we're not going to be able to re-release him into the wild. That is because green iguanas are an invasive species. If we were to re-release him back into the wild, well, that's illegal to do so. So we're going to have to find a home for him. So we're going to, oh my gosh, guys, look at him. He's twitching. He's twitching back to life.
Put him back in the water.
He's coming back to life. Look at him. He's moving.
Oh, put him back.
This is incredible. Look at him. He's
cold.
moving. We were bringing him back to life. This is insane. Okay, we're gonna put him back in the water. Guys, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I have never reheated an iguana back to life, but this is so cool to actually save this iguana right here. And not only are we saving his life, but we're also removing an invasive species from the environment. My method is working. The warming method is working.
Look at those
He's
legs.
slowly coming back to life. Look at this. He still hasn't gained oh, his eyes just opened for the first time. His eye just opened up and he is slowly moving. We're literally reheating stone cold, frozen, lifeless iguanas back to life. We're gonna put him back in here again, and we're just gonna slowly start taking that water and we're gonna move it on him. And guys, I'm thinking in about 10 to 15 minutes, this guy is going to be reheated. We left the water here. Now we're just gonna turn the water back on. We're gonna move him and we're gonna get it a little bit warmer. The water could be slightly warmer. And by warming the water, we're gonna warm him more and bring him back to life. Guys, I have some incredible news. If you look towards the front of his legs, look, he's starting to breathe again. Before he wasn't breathing, but now he's taking large, deep breaths. So that means his organs are starting to work. Oh my gosh.
If I didn't.
He's coming back. Hi, buddy. Oh my gosh, he's moving. He's back to life. Check this out. The iguana has been revived. He hasn't gained full momentum, but as you can see, he's active, he's back moving, and he is gonna be just okay. From what I see, he was just cold stunned. This happens every year in Florida. But let's head out right now over to my pool deck so you guys can see him in the full light. I'm so happy we were able to revive him. We're gonna bring him on out just like this, and you guys can truly see right now. Let's set him up right here. We're gonna set him up right here in the sun, and you guys are gonna be able to see right there that he is back to life. He is completely revived.
Gorgeous.
He's a little bit tame right now, but this obviously is a wild iguana. So this guy is not going to stay tame for long. I'm sure soon enough he's gonna wanna run. And guys, I'm so glad we were able to revive this iguana, and I actually have a friend that has been wanting a new pet iguana. So I'm actually gonna give him a call up, and we are going to place this iguana in a great home where he's gonna live the rest of his life, because again, we cannot re-release these back into the wild because they are an invasive species. And that, my friends, is going to end today's episode. I hope all of you did enjoy watching today's video where we actually revived this green iguana back to life. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below what you thought about reheating this frozen iguana back to life. And guys, if you are not subscribed already, you want to see more crazy animal rescues, you want to see tigers, lions, turtles, and tortoises, well, what are you waiting for? Go right now and hit that subscribe button and tap that little notification bell, and you all will be notified whenever I post.
Alright. I'm just going to watch a couple videos of people getting whacked by iguanas and iguanas being cool. Now, marine iguana is my favorite lizard. A marine iguana, but I love just iguanas in general. I love them. They make me want to eat veggies.
Look how big he is. That's a big dog. He's like, this guy's going, what are you doing messing with me, man?
He just drew his tail back.
I guess he thinks he's saving him. I'm not crossing the street. He's messing around. Hey.
Yep, there you go.
That tail. Hey.
He's gonna get ya.
Hey. I hit you with that tail. Hey.
Yeah. Kid seemed like his heart's in the right place to mommy. I think, yeah, I didn't know, hanging up by its tail and stuff like that, just to show how frozen it was. I don't think he needed to do that, but I get why he did. Yeah, you keep walking, homie. Keep walking.
Gotta go.
There's that. Yeah, here we go. We'll play this one again with sound. This is about the invasion of the Florida.
Giant bull iguana. Yeah, guys. So today on my adventure over here in the park in Las Olas, I decided to come out here and see what was going on. Now, I know this is by the ocean, by the water, intercoastal, lots of trees, lots of rocks. So, I figured lots of big iguanas hanging out over here. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people and a lot of traffic. So, I wasn't really expecting much. Oh, hey, guys. But I was surprised at what I seen, guys. This place, like every other place by water, is infested with green iguanas. On the side note, remember these are invasive species to South Florida, and these animals cause a lot of devastation.
You see them running already.
Droppings, a lot of deterioration due to infrastructure,
up in the trees,
banks, rocks, bridges, jetties. You know, and there's nothing natural out here hunting these creatures. So I decided to come just to take a look and see if I can see any. And like I said, guys, the place was literally infested with them, crawling everywhere.
And this is the Iguana Man video, like before we really started doing the iguana capture for full time.
You know what I'm saying? Like the Galapagos iguanas. Some are evolved to marine life. Some have evolved to desert life. Some have evolved to freshwater life. But you see, these are marine ones. And if you guys take a closer glimpse right here, you guys are going to see a dead one floating.
Okay, these are not marine iguanas. These are green iguanas, not marine iguanas. Just to be clear.
Don't know how he expired, but you know, he's over there just floating, rotting away. Not the most prettiest sight or the best smell. But on my hunt, you know, I was just looking for any big ones. I did see a few of them, you know what I'm saying? But I was really looking for some hot spots. We have another couple curly-tailed invasive lizards, but mainly the green iguana right here, and that's a female right there, making eggs, reproducing.
Everything you've
like
shown's been
crazy.
female, looks like.
There's nothing really out here stopping these things, guys, and you guys might think it's cruel that I'm out here catching them, but really, I just want you guys to be in check with realistically how many numbers and how out of control this problem really is. Florida has thousands and thousands of coastline, guys. And all I footage
Thousands
is
and
just
thousands of coastline, of miles of coastline, maybe.
a couple hundred of it. So I don't even touch, the main. I'm probably what you guys see is there goes an iguana nest right there. See, but what you guys are seeing right now is just basically a couple of percentiles of actually the real damage about what's taking place over here. So I try to show you there goes more iguana nests. I try to show you guys first person, view on the real problem over here.
Some ducks. And there's that big male iguana. Go over there and get whacked. Whoop-ah! Smack you with that tail. Big males get aggressive when they're orange like that. Kind of like when an elephant has that stuff dripping down the side of its head. It means don't mess with it.
They're not interested in it, honey. They're just curious. See how the black one, he's acting like, let me see what's around here. He's gonna try to step on it. Oh, wow.
Kitties are curious.
Oh, my. That's like a lasso.
Yeah, get you whacked in the face. He's lining up that gray cat. So come a little bit closer. That's a male too. You can tell by his taller spikes on his head. And it's oh, think you're gonna sneak around, huh? Oh, come get it. Kitties. Kitties, kitties. Two invasive species. Which one wins? Cats win. Iguanas, though, are one of our cats' kind of weakness, though. Like, cats are destructive against most species, but they have kind of a poor showing against iguanas. Iguanas can't kill cats either, but like the cats have a hard time taking iguanas. I think it's because the iguanas fight back and they use their tails. And it upsets the cat. In their natural habitat, they have, oh, you're gonna make it lose its tail, lady. Don't do that. No. Don't stop. You're trying to make it lose its tail. Stop it. Oh. Why? Stop it. Do not go just pull their tails off. All right. That's probably good for today. Did have one more topic on the docket, but I can save that for next week. It was one that somebody sent me from the Hive, so you will get your topic covered. Don't worry, but just not going to be able to make it on today is because we're already 22 minutes over the scheduled show. So thank you so much for sticking with me, though. It's been a real blast hanging out with you guys today. As always, please remember to be kind and take care, and we'll see you next time.